started. Sorry, I was a little late. Madam City Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Thank you. Call to order, 5:35. Mayor Kelly Krebs.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Robert Parkhurst.
Here.
Councilmember Edward Garcia.
Here.
Councilmember Robert Parkhurst. Excuse me, Jean Goss.
Here.
Councilmember Jean Goss and Councilmember Christine Lowe.
Present.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. If you could all rise, if you are able, and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I don't have a long inspiration tonight. I just wanted to take note this week of our observance of Veterans Day and thank everyone for their service, current service, past service. Obviously, Veterans Day is a honors all of our veterans, whether or not deceased in service. But I did notice this weekend that a number of people I was with were wearing the poppy, which I think in the United States we associate more with Memorial Day, but around the world it's actually more associated with Veterans Day, which actually is celebrated by other countries around the same time of year. So I just wanted to read a stanza from the poem in which inspired the poppy to become a symbol of veterans, particularly veterans of World War I, and that's the poem In Flanders Field by Michael, give me one second, John McCrae, Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae, who was a Canadian actually. And in Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard among the guns below. And then the last stanza, take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from falling hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high, if ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields. So just wanted to take that opportunity to share that and to again thank all of our veterans for their service. And moving on with our service, may I please have a motion to approve our agenda or any changes?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great. How about a motion for approval of reading of resolutions and ordinance by title only?
Move to approve the reading of all ordinances and resolutions by title only and waive the reading in full.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great. And how about approval of our meeting minutes from October 29th? Any changes, Madam City Clerk?
Madam Mayor, the City Clerk's Office did not receive any requests for changes or modifications.
Any changes from?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, please.
Not a request for change, but just a commendation. They were just incredibly thorough and well structured. So whoever did them this time did a very, very good job.
Great.
And with that, I will move approval over the minutes of October 22nd and October 29th.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. So that covered both approval of the minutes for the 22nd and the 29th. All right, moving on to mayor and city council reports. Who would like to start?
Go first.
Yes, please.
Excuse me. Back on, seems like a long time ago, it was actually last month, October 28th, I attended the Library Board Trustees meeting. They conducted quite a bit of business. I think the main issue was we're having a new library construction ad hoc committee formed, and they needed to put representatives on that committee, and they voted for that. So the Vice Chair Gluck will be the primary delegate on this new committee, and Board Member Addy was selected as the alternate. Then later that evening, we had the very first meeting of the ad hoc committee here at City Hall, and I'll just share some of the news that I've got at that meeting at that night, but some of it's a little old. And most of you are aware we did sign the contract with AMG. The fence is all the way up around the library now. Edison came in and installed 2 poles for power at the site. The office trailer was scheduled to arrive that week. I have not confirmed with staff if it's there yet or not. And we were informed that each of the 17 subcontractors will be providing a monthly report to our Public Works Director, Yanez. Finally, we decided to meet on a monthly basis, and the next meeting will be on December 2nd. And one other item, I did attend the Council of Governments 30th anniversary party at the San Gabriel Hilton, actually carpooled with former Mayor Rochelle Arizmendi. It was held up on the rooftop veranda at sunset. It was a beautiful setting, fittingly so, because they do a lot for the San Gabriel Valley. Attendance was good. Various speakers took turns commending the work of COG over the last 30 years. Among them were Assemblyman Chris Holden and Congressman Chu. All in all, it was a Congresswoman Chu. And all in all, it was a very nice occasion. Madam Mayor?
Great, thank you. Councilmember Lowe?
I attended some of the Halloween happenings, and it was packed this year. COVID is definitely over. Great costumes, really fun night, all the way up to Allegra. Kids were trick-or-treating until about like 10:30 at night. It's crazy. On 11/4, I attended the San Gabriel Valley COGS Firewise community webinar, which was really insightful to see how these Firewise community groups start anywhere from small groups of 7 up to like 21. So it was really neat to see how those can work, and they had some great ideas and helpful solutions for our city. And then the Planning Commission was on 11/7. Nothing too exciting. Approved a new window for the Green and Greenhouse in Sierra Madre. And there will be no meeting this coming next week on Thursday on the 21st. The Friends of the Library Partner Appreciation Event was on 11/8. I was not able to attend, but please, you guys, just to be a partner, you only need to donate $100. And that makes you the partner level. You get invited to the appreciation dinner, and also that puts all the money towards the library, who's funding much of our programming, as well as the interior furniture and things we'll need once we open up the library. And then the the Sierra Madre Library Foundation is matching that amount that the Friends of the Library is donating. So if you could match the same, 100 to each group, that would be fantastic, everybody. And then the car show this last weekend for the Firefighters Association was awesome. It was so well attended. It was some great fun. It was a great time to visit with a lot of people too. And I've never seen a raffle where everyone stays there and doesn't leave. So that was pretty great, because of great donations from Taylor's, Casa del Rey, Poppy Cake, Code 3 CPR certifications at Arnold's. And then kind of on a somber note, one of our 2018 Older Citizens of the Year, and one of our most phenomenal volunteers, Darlene Crook, passed away this last Friday.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Garcia?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I was not at the last regular meeting due to a work commitment. So there, really from that, what I missed for my my report, did go to the League of California Cities. I know everybody else reported out on that, but a couple of the sessions, or the sessions that I went to, a couple of more economic forecast sessions, which obviously I find very, very interesting. And one of them was very good at tying the economic forecasts back to city government. And I agreed with a lot of what they said. It's not always the case with some economists, but the two forums were very good. Also attended a forum on crisis management, all kinds of crises. So it doesn't have to be wildfire or active shooter, but a lot of recommendations from people that have actually been involved within that scope of work. And I have some things I'd like to bring to staff, issues we can consider, and also a couple classes on wildfire management. One specifically struck me, and I want to talk with staff about some of the things that were done prior to the El Dorado fire in Irvine. They had their fire chief there and some other OES individuals, and they had plans in place which were amazing as far as evacuation plans. I know we have our Genesis project and other things, but I think it's imperative that we take a look at our evacuation plans once again, and get the community involved in that. They were talking about high-low sirens. that this high-low siren sounds different than any other siren. So when residents hear the high-low, they know to either listen for a loudspeaker announcement or to find information on possible evacuations. So tremendous job during that presentation from the city of Irvine and the surrounding areas. So that kind of recaps the highlights of the League of California Cities that I attended. Also, obviously, the Halloween happenings are very popular in town. I attended those. I'd like to thank community services, all the volunteers, all the businesses for everything that goes on downtown during the day for our little ones. It's kind of, we have a lot of visitors that come to town, and it's nice to have, there's some visitors there too, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it feels special for our kids here in town to have that downtown trick-or-treating. All our businesses are so generous. So I just want to thank everybody for really, really giving our kids a treat every single year. Our businesses, our staff, for really, really pushing Halloween here. I think the Garcia residence, I'm just below the Alegria that's closed off. I think we gave out over 2,500 pieces of candy, one piece each. And I've heard on Alegria they're giving away like 6,000 pieces. So it's really a time here. On 11/7, I attended the Senior Community Commission. Really not too much there, just some updates. But when I gave my report, I mentioned that Athens would be here, and they had some comments regarding my report. And I don't see any of the Senior Community Commission here, but I could probably bring that up during the presentation. But there are some concerns from that commission, at least. The weight, and I've said this before, the weight of our locking cans for seniors and differently abled people. There's been some injuries with those cans, so I'd like to maybe have a little bit of a discussion during this presentation regarding those cans and what we can do for those that have a hard time wheeling those, because if you're on a north-south street, everyone's on an incline. So it could be very heavy, even for me. And on the 9th, I attended the car show as well. It was well attended, as Councilmember Lowe said. It was great to see so many people out there. The cars are just great. And the residents and visitors are just having a good time. We had another well-attended car show. Last year was amazing as well. We had great weather once again. I'd like to thank Fire for really putting this together. The trophies are like no other car show trophy you've ever seen. They're all fabricated by our firemen, and they're all unique. And yeah, everyone stuck around for the awards and the raffle. It was pretty amazing to have a community event like that where everybody stays for the long haul. And I believe that completes my report.
Thank you. Mayor Protem?
Great, thank you, Madam Mayor. So on October 23rd, I attended the sanitary district meeting. Nothing to update on that one. Like other folks, I was at Halloween happenings, and I'll just point out the costumes. Some of the creative costumes that people had were just unbelievable. So just kudos to everyone, the efforts they put in. Like others said, thanks to the businesses. Really appreciate, it really brings this town together. It's really nice, and kudos to all the homes up on Alegria. Every year I think they can't outdo themselves, and oh my God, it's just incredible. So lots of effort that goes into that, and I appreciate everyone who makes the effort to do that. As others said, there was a car show on 11/9. Because the mayor was out of town, I had the extreme privilege of giving out the Mayor's Award, and I picked a 1964 VW van, which was really nice. I have personal memories of VW vans and having to push one because it wouldn't start, and then have the driver pop the clutch, and then everyone runs and jumps in the car. So that brought back some good memories for myself. And then, of course, there wouldn't be a meeting if there wasn't a bunch of Clean Power Alliance meetings. There were there were 4 meetings on the 23rd, 4 meetings in total, October 23rd, 24th, 30th, and November 7th. Nothing huge to report on it. The organization continues to to be buying power and associated attributes to keep our electricity on in our area, and just continues to be exciting there. And turn to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you to Mayor Pro Tem for covering the sanitation district meeting while I was out of town, and for the car show as well. I won't add much to the, what other folks said. I will say a thank you to our city staff and CERT for the hours they put in to make the Allegria Halloween event safe, which by all accounts and all, I was there later in the evening, and by all appearances went, swimmingly well. And I appreciate all of the effort that staff puts into all of the Halloween happenings, even though technically I think the trick-or-treating is a chamber event, and obviously the Allegria event is a private event, but so much of it is covered and planned and helped to be planned by our staff. So thank you for that. The only thing I would add is I actually did attend the Library Partners Appreciation Reception, so I will echo Councilmember Lowe's call for donations. It is true that the money that we've gotten from the state and that we've matched, and the portion that we've matched from the general fund, will only go to the exterior of the building, and all of the furniture, fixtures, and equipment that will fill the new building has to be covered by other sources of funding. And I know the Friends have already generously donated a large sum, but there will definitely need to be more, and the foundation is kicking off a large drive for fundraising for various things. Former Mayor Stockley, I think, is helping to head that up, and he spoke at the event and said, when we open that building and there's there's going to be a wall of donors, don't you want your name on that wall? And so I will put that out there as a incentive, perhaps, for folks to think about whether they can donate to those efforts. And similarly to the raffle at the car show, everyone was there, and I felt like half the room won a prize. So thanks again to all of our merchants for donating so many great prizes for that evening as well, and that was a lot of fun. Okay, so a few city announcements. We did have our library staff attend the 2024 California Library Association Annual Conference, which was held in Pasadena for the first time. The theme was Balancing Act, Shelf Care, and Self-Care. And they offered over 130 sessions focused on enhancing library service and staff well-being. So with support from the Library Board of Trustees and the city manager, they were able to close the library on Saturday, October 19th, which meant that 10 of our 12 library staff members were able to attend the conference. So I'm sure they will be bringing back great ideas to add to the amazing things that they do at the library. Sierra Madre Elementary is hosting a food drive this year, as they usually do around Thanksgiving time. So food donations will help to support both our sister school, Madison Elementary, as well as families in the elementary school community in need as well. They have a donation drop box in the lobby of the school, and donations will be accepted until Thursday the 15th. I believe that's this coming Thursday. And also the City Hall and Police and Fire Department will be taking Toys for Tots collections through December 14th. Let's see, what else? Next Monday, the library has a whole host of events, including baby rhyme time at 9 a.m., preschool story time at 10 a.m., and a writer's workshop at 6 p.m., although the last one, the writer's workshop, will be held at Emmy's Restaurant. Mark your calendars for Saturday, November 30th will be our winter festival from noon to 8 p.m. in the downtown area and in Memorial Park. We will have carolers, craft vendors, food trucks, our famous sledding hill. There might be a special visitor to the Kirsten Court and Santa and Mrs. Claus. We will light the tree, and the Sierra Madre Rose Float will be there with its royal court for the year. Just a reminder that the San Gabriel Valley Municipal Water District offers free irrigation upgrades. They will come out and inspect and provide eligible residents with weather-based irrigation controller and spray nozzles. If you were here at our last regular meeting, we had a great report about one of our residents who had that service done and was very complimentary of the service and the value that it provides. And those are our announcements. I will remind everyone of our public participation code of conduct. We are welcome to participate and we encourage it, but we do ask that you refrain from making personal, slanderous, profane, or disruptive remarks. If you do disrupt the conduct of the meeting, I will give you a warning, and if you continue, we may ask you to leave. Please do not bring signs, posters, or other large objects that would disrupt, disturb, or otherwise impede the course of our meeting. With that said, Madam Mayor, or Madam City Clerk, I am the mayor. Madam City Clerk, can you please let us know if there's anyone here for comments for items not on the agenda?
Yes, thank you. We have 3 speaker cards this evening. The first of the 3 is from Mary Lou Caldwell.
Great, thank you. I think we're having a 4th coming. Yes, but still, Mary Lou Caldwell, Mrs. Caldwell.
I was with the Kiwanis. I can stand on my tippy toes. I was with the Kiwanis in the Rotary on Veterans Day for the setup in the park, and I wanted to thank everyone that helped. Rotary did the bulk of the work because there was just me. And we set up the posters. The students from the middle school were the docents, and I felt kind of bad because it wasn't, there weren't a whole lot of people there. So I was able to get online or give the students the online address for the interview with my husband, Gordon Caldwell, for the Library of Congress. So that interview, they all had cell phones and they could see the poster and read what was on the poster. Then they could see the man's face, hear his voice, and really see that this was a real person. But everyone helped. They shoved stuff into my car, and I got out of there because I had another appointment at 1 o'clock. I had a funeral at 1 o'clock, so it worked out, and I wanted to thank everyone that helped. And Rotary did a really good job. We just needed a few more people.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all of that you did to make that happen.
Not much.
Thank you.
It was really Rotary that did most of the work.
Great, thank you.
Madam Mayor, the next speaker card is from Heather Allen.
Excuse me, I'm suffering from sciatica. I've pinched nerve, and I know if I walk back up, I'm in a lot of pain, but I'll do my best to.
Okay, so let me explain that so that folks who are maybe listening or maybe watch the meeting afterwards know. So our speaker is going to speak from the top of the room and is not able to come down to the microphone. So we'll probably just repeat for purposes of the recording and for those who might be watching online what the question or what the comments are, if that's okay.
Okay, great. I came here tonight because I have a concern regarding our transportation program in town. I'm sure many of you are aware that the dial ride has been closed since August, and we haven't really had any service. And I personally use the dial ride, basic necessities really, just to go grocery shopping at the doctor's office. And I was talking to James about it, James Carlson, and he explained to me that the transportation subcommittee had made a decision to, I guess, implement a new program, something involving a fixed route system that I'm not totally familiar with. But the impression I'm getting is it'll be some kind of program where residents in town go to a stop, get picked up by the Micro Mini. Micro Mini takes you to the fixed route, and then you're, I guess, supposed to get to wherever you're going from the fixed loop.
Okay, let me actually, sorry, I'm not going to remember everything that you said if I don't do it halfway through. So the concern is around the cessation of our dial-a-ride service as of August, and concerns about residents, including our speaker, who utilize the dial-a-ride service. And she's been speaking with our senior analyst, James Carlson, about the subcommittee that transportation subcommittee that we formed about their discussions around a fixed route replacement of the dial-a-ride. Is that accurately? Okay, thank you.
Personally, I can't take the fixed route, due to a disability I have. And, I'm just really concerned about the future of this program. How can I say this? I don't think anyone who takes the dial-a-ride was asked to be on the committee, and I don't think any survey was done. So I'm wondering, did the transportation subcommittee really know the basic needs of people who take the dial-a-ride? And when I was doing a little bit of research, I looked up the Americans with Disability Act, and it actually requires that the public transit operator provide fixed route service to provide a complimentary paratransit, that's a dial-a-ride, service to people with disabilities who can't use the fixed route bus or a rail service. So I'm wondering if you can look into this and we can have more conversation about it, because I don't think the fixed route is really meeting the needs, and I don't want to see the city put money into something that's not really. When the dial-a-ride was working quite well, what's the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it?
Great, thank you. I appreciate the comment. So that the end of the comment was that there's concern that the transportation subcommittee did not necessarily include representation from folks who use the dial-a-ride, and perhaps there wasn't information gathered, and wants a further discussion. She requests a further discussion around how a dial-a-ride type program could be continued, because the fixed route might not solve or all the problems, that might not provide service to folks with disabilities, and there may be requirements under the Americans with Disability Act to provide some sort of transportation to cover that gap. Is that fair?
Sure, if you have any further development, maybe, Mr. Hosman or someone could call me.
Yes, we'll have staff contact you. Thank you so much for your comment.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, the next speaker card is from Jessica Alvarenga.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Jessica Alvarenga, and I'm the newest public affairs manager at SoCal Gas, and most importantly, your liaison for the city of Sierra Madre. So I am simply here to introduce myself. I've brought business cards so that you have my contact information. I want you to put a face to a name and ensure you that if there's anything you need, I'm just a call away. I've been working most recently with your staff to ensure that gas is turned off accordingly for the construction of the library. And so on that note, I look forward to working with all of you moving forward. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, the next speaker is Robert Jerde.
Hi, Robert Jerde, Vista Circle Drive. I'm wearing my cemetery hat tonight. Nice to have a couple board members here from the cemetery too. I want to talk about the unintended consequences of the organics program. A year ago, we had a 40% increase, I guess due to renegotiating the rates and adding the pull-out service. And that wasn't great for us as a nonprofit, but we talked to Athens. They said there's nothing they could do. We paid that for 6 months. Then in January, we're told that we can no longer use our dumpster for green waste. Well, all we have is a dumpster, and all we have is green waste. There are basically two options, which are either residential or commercial on the contract, two sets of pricing. And under the commercial contract, they don't offer green waste cans, it's only organics cans, and they cost around $80 or so each. To replace our dumpster, it would take 6 96-gallon green waste cans, that size. But they said they don't offer the 96-gallon cans for commercial, so we'd have to get 9 64-gallon cans. And the price, then, I mean, I'm never sure on the price because it always seems to be changing. When I talk to Athens, I always get different prices, but it's going to be like $122 per can, costing us over $1,000 or so. So we complained about that, and Well, we complained about that when we got a bill for $550 for our green waste service. And we talked to them, complained, they said they're gonna fix it, and they ended up taking the organics cans off of our bill for about 6 months. We were only paying $63, which was great. We thought that's where we were at until last week when Athens called and said that the city's negotiated new rates and our rates are going up, and we'd have to get the 9 64-gallon cans again, and it was gonna be almost $900 for that and our one black can. We got our bill last month. It was only $599, which I guess is better, but that's kind of ridiculous when across the street, just 20 feet away, a residential service can have 6 96-gallon green waste cans and one black can, and they pay about $88 for that. So I don't know what the difference is by 20 feet, why as a commercial property we have to pay so much more, but now we're paying about $20 a day, and that's unreasonable for us, and it just makes no sense, because they pick up with the same truck that they pick up across the street, they'd come and get our green waste cans. So I don't know what can be done about that. Maybe, and luckily Athens is here, so maybe that's something you can discuss. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, we have no other speaker cards at this time.
And if I'm correct, we did not receive any email public comment this
You are
evening?
correct.
We had one.
Yeah, we did,
Oh,
from Jim Kelly.
oh, prior to today, right?
Yeah, it was sent in
That was
on the 9th.
forwarded, yes, that went over, came over on the weekend, yes.
Thank you, yes. Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to our agenda. Our first presentation is actually from our representative with Athens.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, City staff. My name is Brandon Stansell, Government Affairs Director for Athens Services. With me today, I have some of my team members, Government Affairs Manager Tim Ye, and I have Division Vice President Brandon Mills here behind me as well. The purpose of our meeting here today really is just to highlight some of the work that Athens has done throughout the community, important dates to remember to close out the year, and things to look forward to in 2025. So just briefly going over the agenda, again, just Athens and Sierra Madre, some community outreach that Athens has done throughout the year, really highlighting, since I'm doing the presentation, since I've been here, which is March, so majority of the year, holiday season and important dates to remember as far as like holiday pickup, preparing for rating season, things of that nature, updates in 2025 that residents should be aware of, just a highlight of our new Irwindale material, MRF is what it's called, but the whole acronym is Material Recovery Facility, and we'll have an opportunity for questions and concerns from residents and council. So first up we have here, two parts throughout the year, in the fall and the spring, Athens Services provides a compost event for the community. We usually do around 30 tons of compost. We get a great participation turnout from whether it's teachers, residents that come by multiple times to pick up as much compost as they need for their gardens and wherever throughout the community. Also on the right, Earth Day, as you can imagine in our line of work, is like our Super Bowl. So you can imagine that Athens Services work products spread through all the cities that we represent. And you can see in the picture there, I'm with Mayor Pro Tem Parkhurst. We have some of our staff there and as residents as well in the picture. And again, transitioning into being good community partners, we partnered with the Harvest Festival at the St. Rita's Middle School. And you see the two, I call them gentlemen, that are they're part-time employees at Athens, also known as my children. If it is a kid-friendly event, weekend, throughout the week, you will see them with me. And I'm just glad you can see their faces because that was before they got the face paint in that picture there. Also transitioning into the Fire Prevention Festival that we attended, hosted a table, also got to see Mayor Pro Tem Parkhurst and Councilwoman Lowe there at the event. You see the residents there talking to our staff, and I'm assuming they're talking about our popular sorting game. That is a really good event that's just educating residents on how to properly sort your trash. outreach throughout the community. We have several different ways of communication that we reach out to our residents in regards to whether it be through a newsletter that's updating you on how to properly sort your trash, how to reduce food waste, upcoming events such as compost or parades or things of that nature that's going on in the city that we'll be participating in. Social media with important messages on changes throughout Athens and whatever is be going on with our programs. You see in some of the highlighting pictures there, we have how to properly use a resistance barrel. And Councilmember Garcia, I did note your concern. So I'll have questions at the end and we can talk about that with the senior center. And then we also have at the bottom just how to properly compost because there are certain ways with our compost with the ratio, and we teach information all throughout the year, and it's specifically catered for Sierra Madre residents. Here you see our holiday schedule. This in regards to the pickups as far as trees and things of that nature. So as you can see, it says Christmas, Wednesday, December 25th. If your collection day falls on or after, Christmas, it will be Wednesday, December 25th. New Year's Day, Wednesday, January 1st. Your collection services will be delayed by one service day. Saturday service will be delayed until the following Monday. Again, sticking with important dates to remember, Athens will collect holiday trees the first two scheduled pickup days after Christmas. Tree collection date starts December 26th, and then the collection date ends January 3rd of the following year. Please ensure that lights, ornaments, and any decorations are fully removed from holiday trees. Rainy season preparation. Here are some tips about how to prepare your waste and recycling for a rainy day. Please ensure that your lids for your carts are closed to prevent rainwater from entering. Make sure carts are at least 6 inches away from the curb, making them less likely to be carried away from the stormwater flow. Like the council member mentioned before, I understand the area of Sierra Madre is very hilly and slopey, so we just please ask that you follow these instructions so your carts won't roll away. Some changes started 2025. Starting January 1, 2025, residential and commercial accounts in Sierra Madre will see a small administrative increase due to annual CPI. CPI stands for Consumer Price Index. A small definition of Consumer Price Index measures the overall change in consumer prices based on a representative basket of goods and services over time. This small administrative increase allows Athens Services to continue providing excellent service, quality support to the community of Sierra Madre. Also sticking with changes in 2025, we will be opening, hopefully in Q2 is the plan, our Irwindale MRF facility. Again, MRF stands for Material Recovery Facility. Just a small definition on a MRF facility. A material recovery facility is a plant that sorts and prepares recyclable materials for resale to manufacturers. MRFs are a key component of recycling programs and are essential for reducing the amount of waste sent to landfills. And currently, Athens Services, we have 3 MRFs that we own. We also manage one other in Puente Hills that we manage with the LA County. And so this MRF facility in Irwindale would be state of the art in the state of California, and we're very excited to get this up and running. And that's it. It's just a thank you. You have the number there if you have any questions as far as you want to reach out to us, and we're here to answer questions from council.
Questions? Councilmember Garcia, do you want to go first just based on your?
Yeah, it's some comments, some questions. So, yeah, that's obviously a concern. One of our former commissioners actually sustained a pretty serious head injury. Okay. And she can't drive anymore due to that injury from rolling her can down the driveway. And I'm sure you've felt them. They're heavy. If you, on a relative basis, just the regular green can that doesn't lock relative to the locking can. So that's been a concern of mine. I think last time Christian Warner was here, I brought it up. And I don't know what the solution is. If there's a reduced pilot program, if we could get volunteers in the city together to help our seniors, because it's large and heavy. So options could be, and I don't know if these exist, a smaller can for the organics that's not as heavy. That could be one thing. I don't even know if that type of can exists. That's bear proof. Okay. Other type of exemptions. We have a citywide program for a reason because we have bear issues, but And we do have a lot of seniors, so if we exempt half of our residents, that could be a problem.
Okay.
But, you know, I think there's solutions out there. We don't want people not using them too, right? So there's a lot going on here. So we need to take a look at that, because we are as you said, a hilly city. And as a council, our residents come first. So we're really concerned about their well-being, and they're using the cans, and when they're using it, they're able to use them effectively.
Okay.
That's really the question and comment I have on that. And so I don't think we're going to solve that tonight.
I wish I could, but that is something that I brought my team members here, asked them to come join me so they can collect this information as well. And Christian Warner, who is like the brains of this operation as far as with contracts, I could definitely bring that concern up to him and reiterate how much of a issue it can be for seniors. I know in my time here, this is not the first time I heard that. So at Earth Day, I had a couple seniors bring that to my attention. So I will work with my team as far as if there's a smaller can, what are the options and how we go about that.
Okay, and a couple of things. I just want to thank Timothy Ye for those videos that are tailored for Sierra Madre. So we are noticing that. Okay. I also do want to bring up the renegotiating of our contract on some issues, and very pleased with the response of Athens on some of the pricing issues. Okay. We've heard from resident Robert Jerde. You know, there has to be a common sense as far as the cemetery is concerned. They don't have the organics that require locking, because it's probably just grass clippings and tree trimming. So hopefully there could be a solution there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that I've worked with James, and we're throwing out compliments. I want to throw one to James, who's been an excellent friend and partner since I've been in this role. We talked right before the weekend, and I talked with my team today, a little before I came here. And thank you for your compliments, and thank you for your concerns and bringing that to my attention. And there's something that we are going to work out and do. It's get the go ahead from leadership to get it approved, but I think the ball's already rolling in that right direction. And again, it's like you said, it's a common sense approach, and we want to continue to show that we're good community partners, and we can't continue to say that if we don't show it. So I appreciate your concerns and compliments. I think we will definitely get that going.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate once again, because maybe a lot of the residents don't know. What's that?
Ask a follow-up to your question.
Yeah, I'll just throw this out there. Again, thanks to Christian and the whole staff for being very flexible and responsive to our concerns regarding the contract. So I just want to thank you for that again. So.
My follow-up to that is a question. Can we help our residents have better communication and solutions with you? I feel like most of the time they have to come to us with a complaint, and then we have to bring it to the city staff, and then that's taking city staff hours. Then it comes to you, and then it ends up being a long conversation instead of your community, I guess your services and your customer service with them directly. Can we do better at that, so we're not constantly getting pulled and involved, and our staff isn't taking up as much time?
Absolutely. I wanna. That's why I'm here today, to make the constant just push and be the face that you guys reach out to. I want folks and the residents to associate Sierra Madre with myself when they think of Athens. I feel like I've tried to come here as much as I can and be regular, but I have my information card. I'll do it for the record as far as reading my email. So my first and last name, Brandon, Brandon. Last name is Stansell, Stansell. My email is B, capital S, as in Sam, T as in Tom, A as in Apple, N as in Nancy, S as in Sam, E as in Edward, L as in Love, L as in Love, and that's at AthensServices.com. So I want to be an open resource for residents and council for your needs with Athens and moving forward. I'll be the contact.
Thank you. Then as a quick question then too, I remember the very beginning presentations when we did talk about, we did bring up the subject of the larger cans. And at that time we were presented with an alternative that another city was using that was smaller. It was not the size 96, I guess is a common one. It was a smaller one that was presented to us, but then I guess there was not as much follow-up regarding that. So I think there was something at one point, and maybe it didn't work as well. We know that trial and error kind of like, does this work? Well, that didn't work so good, so let's try this.
Okay.
But I think the program's going well. I've seen the people coming through and checking our trash, and Um, And just to bring a note to the organics, I really am happy that Sierra Madre has gone this way when other cities have not been doing this. My parents just got back from Italy, and they said it's the norm in Europe. Everywhere in Europe uses this little organics kind of trash can underneath the sink. They put their organics there, and then they put it in the specific trash can outside, and that's the norm now.
Okay.
So I really appreciate that Sierra Madre's gone and staff has moved forward with this, so
Yeah.
thank you.
Absolutely.
Anybody else?
Question.
Yes, Councilmember Goss.
This may be in the contract or maybe in discussions that we've had and I just forgot, but I noticed a couple weeks ago, your patrol unit was going through cans,
Okay.
checking to make sure everything's copacetic. Okay, all good, but then about a week ago, I noticed they were back on our street. So I don't have any idea, what is your policy in terms of, do you go through all the customers once, or do you go, what is your approach to covering the city?
So usually it's about a couple times a year. They'll go through and check for the contamination, and they call it lid flipping. So they check in and make sure we're properly sorting the trash. And so you might see them a couple times throughout the year.
Well, how about 2 times in 2 weeks, though?
2 times, I will have to follow up on that. I'm not part of that team, but I can do the outreach. Oh yeah, please. Sorry, I forgot.
Wait, hold on. Come to the mic, please.
The reason you saw them twice is we were doing an audit of existing barrels. With the deployment of the recycling, we thought it was a great opportunity to go through the neighborhoods, check out who might need a different barrel, or if there's a barrel that's doesn't have the Athens branding on it. So we're lumping that all into one order. So then when we come out to deploy, it'll make it a lot more efficient, and then we can get rid of, I know part of the agreement is to get rid of the older barrels up specifically in certain areas, and we can kind of do that all in one swoop to improve the service for the city. So that's why.
I appreciate it.
Can I follow up on that?
Please.
So I think it's important for residents to be reminded, and I know there was a lot of misinformation on social media, that we are mandated by Senate Bill 1383 to do audits on the contamination and on organics. We don't have enough staff or money to even have staff to do that. Therefore, Athens does that as a service to to the city and to our residents. Otherwise, we would have to do it ourselves and pay for it. And I think there was a lot of misinformation, but this is a unfunded state mandate that we have to follow, and you're helping us with that unfunded state mandate. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. I noticed in the presentation that the holiday tree pickup goes through January 3rd. I seem to remember that in previous years it went later than that. That seems to be pretty early. You've got to get that tree down and out, just the first week after the holiday. Is that typical? Is that changed? Normally, I thought it went through like the end of January.
Yeah. Can I bring up really quick too, that actually is why I was gonna bring up that's Orthodox Christian Christmas is on the 5th, and Armenian Christmas is on the 6th, so we have a lot of residents that wouldn't really work for.
Okay, so when go ahead. I'm sorry. When looking up the information, that was the date that was on our website. So I can go back and double check and see if that's something. I don't know if a week later I will take to suggest to the council what you guys would look forward to as far as you would feel is an appropriate time frame to have it. But we can go back and talk to our operation team to see if we could work on extending that another week or so. Maybe.
Yeah, and if it's an issue of only wanting to do 2 pickups, I suspect that we would be better served having, not the week right after Christmas, but the 2 following pickups after that. I suspect that would actually be a better. If you can do 3, that's great. But if that's a concern.
So if I can take it even one step further, so you said Orthodox
Christian, say Macedonians.
Right, but what are the dates?
It's the 5th or the 7th, I can't remember, and then Armenian Christmas is the 6th.
Okay.
Does that align with
That's
12th
Armenian
night?
Christmas, that's not Orthodox Christmas.
So we say
Macedonian.
5th, 6th, 7th, so in that time frame, if I can make the request through January 17th, that gives everybody at least a week. If we're talking 6th and 7th, those are the Monday, Tuesday, so they would have until the 14th is the following Tuesday, so if we go through the 17th, if that's possible, and even if you backload it, you don't have to do it, starting the week of the 30th.
Okay.
If you want to just do it, one time or 1 week, I think we can get people to work with you on that, but doing it right to the 3rd, I think that's going to be
Pushing it.
I think, I think we'll all get feedback on it that
Okay.
that's too soon.
I think we'll have a lot of Christmas trees sitting on the sidewalks for a long time if we do
Okay.
it that way.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Any other questions? We don't typically open for public comment, but I know you mentioned in your presentation that you'd be willing to take questions from the community, so I will say that if folks have public comment or questions, I welcome anybody to come up at this point to ask our Athens representatives. Okay, it doesn't look like there's anybody else. So thank you very much. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
your
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our consent calendar. Madam City Clerk, could you please provide the presentation?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. This evening, the City Council is asked to consider 6 items on the consent calendar. The first of the 6 is consent A, and that is the consideration of Resolution 24-68, approving certain demands. It is staff's recommendation that the City Council approve Resolution 24-68, approving the payment of city warrants. Consent item B is a receive and file report. It is the treasurer's report for quarter ending September 30, 2024. This is an informative report and no action is required. Consent item C is the consideration of allocation of ARPA grant funds in the amount of $334,605 to the Library Meaningful Improvement Project. And staff recommends that the City Council accept and authorize the allocation and distribution of American Rescue Plan Act grant funds in the amount of $334,605 to AMG Construction for the Library Meaningful Improvement Project. Moving on to consent item D is the California Office of Traffic Safety, OTS. It's the Selective Traffic Enforcement Program Grant Award for fiscal year 2024 through 2025. Staff recommends that the City Council accept the grant funds from Cal OTS in the amount of $40,000 and authorize the City Manager, Acting Finance Director, and Police Captain to execute the agreement. Consent item E is a similar but different California Office of Traffic Safety, again OTS. It's a grant for traffic reporting improvement projects. It's an award for fiscal year 2024 through 2025. It is recommended that the City Council accept the grant funds from Cal OTS in the amount of $105,000 and authorize the City Manager, Acting Finance Director, and Police Captain to also execute this grant agreement. And lastly is consent item F, consideration of appointment of John Capocha to the San Gabriel Valley Mosquito and Vector Control District for a term of 2 years. And staff recommends that the City Council appoint Mr. Capocha to serve a 2-year term as a representative of Sierra Madre. Madam Mayor, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. So first we'll I'll see if there's any questions. Consent item A, the warrants. Consent item B, the treasurer report.
Yes.
Yes, please.
So I have a few questions regarding the treasury report and past treasury reports, and I don't know if we have someone from finance here. That'd probably be, or the city manager. Be best to-
Councilmember Garcia, I think interim finance director's
Good evening. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council.
Thank you.
Good evening. So once again, a stellar treasurer's report. Thank you to, I think this is Michael Mario's last. Thank you to Treasurer Mario for this, for doing a lot for the city and working with our finance department. And thank you for a good report. And I have some historical comments that lead to questions. So I hope that's okay, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
So I'm reflecting back on the first treasurer's report that I saw as after I was elected, or right around when I was elected, and we had general fund cash balance of 6.6 million. Fast forward to, let's say, June 2022, and we were at 9.9 million. So we're seeing it grow, and I will mention that 2022 amount was after our $3 million payment. I have the warrant here from when we made the final payment on the Bank of America building. So my question is, and know the answer, but kind of leading up to 2022 and then 2023, we had cash balance of 12.6, and now we have a cash balance of something like 14. I don't have it in front, don't have it open right now. I've got a lot of paper, sorry. So it's my understanding that a lot of that was A, we were being fiscally conservative. B, we had ARPA funds that we were spending. C, we were drawing down other fund balances. Is that how we got to a larger I know this is the cash balance in the bank, but is that kind of how the general fund cash balance has grown through time?
Yes, and we also had, I think in 2019, we had a tower lease. We got about $1.2 million for that, so that was a big inflow. And just one time, Athens for $200,000 received from Nuvi, received $95,000.
Thank you. So that leads to question 2. As we're considering the treasurer report, one of the things that we get is the amount of annual interest income. And I'm going back to the first treasurer's report I saw as a council member, and our annual interest income was $322,000.
And that was when, just so.
Sorry, this was as of December 31st, 2019, but.
That's fine.
Yeah, thank you. As we go through time, and I've got them all over the place here, my printer was hopping last week when I got the agenda report. We have 2022, and I should have used Post-it notes here. Income of $158,000. This was the June 30th, the end of the fiscal year, for 2021. It was a 2022 report, end of the fiscal year. $158,000 investment income. Let me grab this year's investment income. And as of June 30th, 2023, which is, again, an older one, we're at 1.1 million, right? And then this year, where's this year? My apologies. Yes, we have interest income of almost 2 million.
Yeah, 1.9.
1.9. So I understand that when we're doing our budgeting, we have to look at percentages of the entire cash balance relative to other funds to see what's allocated to general fund. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So could you tell us, as a percentage of our cash balances, how much is general fund?
If we look at the latest one, I know you have several there.
Yes,
If
thank
we
you.
look at the latest one, the general fund claim on cash, as they call it, is 13 million. And our total claim on cash is 46 million. I think that's roughly 28, 29%.
Close to 30%, okay.
Yeah, and so if we were to take the $1.9 million that you have, I think that'll get us to about 600,000.
Okay,
Fund.
and what about ARPA?
ARPA is at $1.1 million in this draft.
I know we have to spend it all by
We do.
very soon, right?
We do. We have to either have a signed contract and or have better off paid off everything by the end of this year. But what's leading to also the increase is that a lot of our funds are invested in LAIF funds, which is a local agency investment fund, which most local cities and localities invest in. I think we're about 37 million of 161 million total. And that fund has been doing really well. If you look at the September report, it's earning 4.5%. There have been years like in 2021, it was not even 1%. 21, 22, it was 0.37%. So we're seeing excellent returns on our late funds right now.
That's very good news, because I remember when we sat down here, when I first came aboard, what it was. So, so when we're talking about the interest that's earned, and I'm concerned with the general fund. So interest earned on the entire LAIF and any agency bonds or US Treasuries that we have. I know, it's my understanding from this report, we have short-term treasuries. Is it our policy to hold those to maturity, or do we sell them?
We normally, under Mike Amario's guidance, we have been holding them to maturity.
That's good
And those have
guidance.
been doing well too. I think the most recent one is, I wanna say, high 2% payoff. I'm sorry, I didn't bring that with me, but I know there's been some that are paying 2.5%.
I think we have one that matures, actually matured in June. It was 5.11%,
Okay.
the yield to maturity. Okay, so why do I bring all this up? I'm trying to have an understanding of our budget, because we're projecting budget shortfalls, but we're having historically high interest payments that we're able to then use for our general fund. So are we in good shape? Have we budgeted this? How are we looking?
Right now for our 24-25, we did budget 586 for other revenues, which includes investment income such as unrealized gains and our interest income. And that has been budgeted at 586, which is in line with the September 30th Treasurer's report. If, these rates keep going higher on our investments, even better, and we can.
So can we go back one year? My recollection in our last fiscal year, what was our forecast for interest income then?
It was only 224 we adopted.
And what
for
was,
23.
at the end of the day, what was other income for that year?
We ended up recording about 907 under other revenues, but keep in mind that that also included a lot of one-times that I mentioned earlier, namely the 200 from Athens, 95 from Nuvi, and those are the two bigger ones.
But it seems like there was some kind of surprise in the.
There definitely was, because if I look at my LAIF, as of 23-24, the interest rate was already at 3.9%. And if we were budgeting based on what we knew for 22-23, it was only at 2.1%.
And we're closer to 4.5%, 5%?
4.5 right now, yeah, as of the September 30th.
So I know it's not within the treasurer's report, but I think it's ancillary to it. As far as not our cash reserves, but our general fund, right? Not the general fund expenses, but our general fund balance. Where are we as a percentage of expenses forecasted for next year? So if we take expenses for our next fiscal year or this fiscal year and divide it by our general fund balance, what percentage are we at?
Our expenditures are expected to be about 17 million. If I look at last year's expenditure, we had a fund balance for the general fund from our audit report for 12 million, of which we said 25% is reserved for rainy day or cash flow reserve policy, which was about 3.5 million.
So we're running a little bit more than 70% of our general fund expenses in fund balance. And you said 25% is what we're required, and we're at 70%? 12 million divided by 17 million, it's about 70%?
Councilmember Garcia, if I may offer some assistance. So GFOA, Government Finance Office Association, recommends we maintain a minimum of 25%. And you're correct, right now we have about 70%. We know that we have other liabilities, and we feel more comfortable of having an internal policy of maintaining about a 50% reserve balance.
Okay, so we're above 50% with 70%.
We're above 50%.
Okay, and I think this might wrap up the questions, but you mentioned, and we've had a lot of discussion about from this council about what you do, how you used reserves and how you don't use reserves, right? So a lot of times it's for capital expenditures, one-time purchases, because it's not good, sound finance to use reserves to to run operations.
Recurring,
But you set a term, rainy day. And I'm not asking for a real definition, but from the finance department, about what does rainy day mean?
I would defer that to city manager.
That's fair enough, yeah.
So I think it would be fair to say what we're heading into is a rainy day. We're projecting to have some deficits in our next budgets that are going to be compounding over the next couple of years. And we don't have a revenue source to make up that difference. So in the process of looking for a new revenue source, during that time, I would say would be a rainy day. And we have, in my opinion, we have sufficient reserves to get us through the next couple of years while we determine or while we find a way to bridge that gap between our ongoing expenditures and the revenue that we're currently taking in.
Okay. So if we continue to have high interest rates, I don't know, we'll see. I'm not trying to crystal ball here, because we've been very surprised with how high the short-term interest rates, and my assumption is that LAIF is based upon short-term maturities. If that continues, potentially we could bridge the gap. Is potentially bridge the gap some way with maybe interest income, in some way with some using of reserves, to then bridge the gap on the budget deficit we're projecting for next year?
I would hope so, and we would have some mark to market also on our LAIF that we could use.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's all I have. I think I'd save the rest for comments on this issue. Thank you. Thank you. I know it was a lot, and I wasn't super prepared, but I appreciate you.
Any additional questions? Okay, thank you. Any questions on consent item C, which is the ARPA allocation? D, the first of our OTS grants.
I've got
Yes,
some
please.
questions. My questions are, a couple citizens have asked, do we make a profit, or can we make a profit from traffic violations? Or does it pretty much break even?
You mean from like fines?
From fines.
Right, so fines, fees, we can't make a profit off of, but fines you can.
But do we see that? I've heard through different departments, not just ours, that the cost is pretty abundant for when we cite people and the fees that we have to use to process that, and that cities don't really make a profit from that, especially if the officer has to go in and support their citation in court. So
Testify?
Right,
testify.
so the labor costs involved with our fines and fees, our fines and penalty schedules are often less than the personnel costs involved in processing those fines or penalties.
So in our past, I don't know how many citations we give a year, of course, but have we ever seen a profit from citations?
Ever?
Yeah, ever. I don't know.
That might be a question for our interim finance director to see if there's a line item for recovering of fees from citations.
And so as this part of this, it's kind of a follow-up question, with this type of study, this grant it's supposed to help with stop sign violations. You know, I've seen in the last year, we had 266 stop sign violations and multiple speeding, DUIs, thank goodness, are low. Is that part of this grant, is to also not increase violations, but increase our safety numbers? Or is this part of the grant, so it's for traffic enforcement? And I think you said last time we have one traffic enforcement person on, and then one patrol officer during the day.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem and City Council. That is correct. So to just give you an overview of it's the Office of Traffic Safety grant. It's through California Highway Patrol. They give us $40,000 a year, a grant that has to be used specifically for primary collision factors. Primary collision factors, some of those are speed, stop signs, tri-light, we don't have lights here in the city, distracted driver, being on your cell phone, pedestrian, DUIs. So we have to do task forces that are specific to primary collision factors.
Then could we use this grant to help look at, we've had an increase of schools, we all know, in Sierra Madre in the last, post-COVID years, and the traffic has gone, of course, much, much worse than it ever has been. And we're seeing more distracted drivers. We keep hearing the complaints and the speed violations and everything. Can this grant be used to help either increase a traffic officer during those high times of like school drop off, pick up, what do you call it? Not really rush hour in Sierra Madre, but high traffic times. Would that be able to be used for something like that?
Thank you for the question. Absolutely. We can use it any way or in any manner we want with any task force. So if we have a complaint, like I said, we take all traffic complaints very serious from our citizens, and public safety is our primary concern for public safety. So yes, we can use it. Just to give you an idea, we had 5 task forces this year. So we do most of the task forces in here. If we go to another city, we do some outside of the city, but that comes out of their budget. We just help them out. We could also pay from our budget outside agencies. So for a pedestrian task force, one of them that we had this year, we use motor officers from our surrounding areas. So we're allowed to do that, and then we pay them the overtime from that $40,000 budget. So to give you an idea, in the 5 task forces, they wrote 178 citations just for primary collision factor, 20 illegal U-turn, and 55 crosswalks, which is pedestrian citations during the task force.
And a task force is like when you do a session specifically looking at a specific type of
So
safety.
What we call a task force, it's basically pre-planned, so it's got to be pre-planned. So for example, the example that you gave regarding traffic out of school, and we would plan, we could have 2 officers come in on overtime for 4 hours each, and just to conduct traffic enforcement specific.
I guess that kind of leads me to, could that then be used as like a study where we're looking at the traffic habits during those hours and seeing where we could, or you could, not me, where you could plan how to better accommodate the violations that we're seeing, or increase the safety of our students and our residents during those times? Could this grant be used, not just a task force, but kind of like a study?
Thank you for the question. I think what you're referring to is education, correct?
More like for us to see what we're seeing, like for you, because you're the expert, like you could watch and see, like, we're seeing this more often, this could be changed, the traffic could be changed this way, maybe no parking during school hours, I don't know. I'm not the expert.
No, that would be a traffic and engineering survey.
Okay.
So no, this has to be specific to traffic enforcement in regards to the primary collision factors.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Do you have any questions on the next one before our chief?
No.
Okay, anybody else have questions on the next OTS grant? Thank you. Any questions on our last consent item F, appointment to the Mosquito and Vector Control District?
Madam
Yes.
Mayor, just to ask that if staff can look to identify someone and work with former Mayor Capocha for someone to replace him in the future. As I understand this, he has expressed that he wants this to be his last term.
In only 2 years.
Yes.
Noted, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
We have a local teacher who's won an award twice from.
True.
True.
Does it? Yeah. Does that have to be a resident? Okay. So I will ask for public comment for items on A through F on our consent.
Madam Mayor, we do not have any speaker cards for the consent calendar, nor did the city clerk's office receive any emails.
Thank you. All right, I'll bring it back for discussion. I think we have at least one discussion item. Before we get to the treasurer report discussion, does anybody else have discussion on any other of the items? Okay. Councilmember Garcia.
Yeah, I just want to say that after going through our past treasurer's reports, going through our past budgets and our past audits, that we are in a good place, but as you stated before, Madam Mayor, the only way the city can have revenue is through a tax. So we only have existing revenue sources. And I feel as though we're in a good enough place to bridge the gap for the budget shortfalls over the next year or two. Don't like spending reserves on operations, but if this is in fact a rainy day, and I think it goes specific to the treasurer's report, we are seeing some increases in some areas where I feel as though we are supplementing our revenue through other avenues such as investments, but we can't always rely on high interest rates. It was a surprise over the past year and a half that we had such high interest rates on short-term maturity securities. So I think the discussion and the message here is we ought to consider bridging the gap. I just want as one of five, right? But this is where we talk about these things. I want staff to know that even though there are budget shortfalls projected, we have planned enough that we have sound finance, and we will have revenues or balance in funds to bridge that gap.
Okay, I think we're maybe
Getting
veering a little too
Well,
close to the budget problems,
Definitely
but
will ask for an agendize that at the end of the meeting.
Yeah, one of us will, I'm sure, bring that up, yeah.
okay. So on that basis, and if there's no other discussion on any other items, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second, oh, go ahead, sorry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. I am hearing that we had a late, isn't it? Give me 1 second. Okay. Thank you. We just needed to coordinate on a public comment. I think we'll categorize it as public comment on our ordinance regarding our third public hearing regarding the parking of oversized commercial recreational vehicles. Okay, so that being said, we'll move on to our first public hearing, which is with respect to the first reading of ordinance 1475 regarding parking penalties. And I believe Captain Amos will present on that.
And Madam Mayor, this public hearing also takes into account the consideration of Resolution 24-69, establishing a parking bail schedule. This resolution number on the agenda is typed in incorrectly, although the agenda report and the PowerPoint presentation are correct.
Okay, so resolution 69, right? 24-69?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Amos.
Mayor, may I ask, I know we first and second the consent calendar. Did we get a vote?
Yes.
We did? Thank you.
Please, sorry.
Not a problem. Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I'm here today to present two items. One is a ordinance establishing a parking bail setting system. The other is a resolution to establish the actual parking fines. Staff was asked some time ago to look into our fees for our parking. In working with the city attorney, it was determined that there was a California vehicle section. There was a California vehicle section that establishes that cities and jurisdictions have to have a ordinance that will establish the ways in which parking fines and penalties are established. With that, Ordinance 1475 establishes pretty much that process. Additionally, Resolution 2469 is the resolution to actually implement the fines and penalties related to parking violations. So California Vehicle Section 40203.5.A is what is guiding this process. This specific vehicle section establishes that jurisdictions must set parking penalties within their should establish parking penalties. It authorizes the city to recover administrative and civil fines related to parking violations, and a portion of the fees have to be submitted to the LA County court system for state and county funds. So Resolution 2469 establishes a parking fine and penalty schedule in compliance with the California Vehicle Code. It ensures that cost recovery for parking enforcement operations. Additionally, it will, by establishing a parking penalty fine, it will hopefully increase compliance through structured penalties and late fees for paying for any parking citations that are issued. Staff is recommending a 3-tier system. The first tier is the standard fine, or the initial fine when the citation is written. That fee is typically in accordance with the approved city fee schedule. The second tier is a 50% assessment fee of the initial fine if the citation is not paid within 21 days. And the third tier is after a 70-day period, the citation can be forwarded to the Department of Motor Vehicles, and a hold will be placed on the registration, for which the owner of the vehicle will have to pay that in order to have their vehicle currently registered. With that DMV hold, there is fees from the DMV that have to be paid, and there are also fees to our third-party vendor that has to be paid also.
Can I ask you a quick question in that part? So I assume the first tier is when you get the citation on your car.
Yes.
Is there also one that's mailed before the late fee? Is there one that's mailed to the house or the residence?
The vendor, our parking vendor may send notification that the citation is coming up on the 21-day period, but it's not always guaranteed. So there is writing on the back of the citation that states that if the citation is not paid within 21 days, that there will be a late fee.
What happens if someone takes the citation off the car, or there's a big rainstorm and it goes away? Like, it would just be automatically to the second tier?
Well, they will, if in that situation, rain occurs and the citation gets washed off the vehicle, when they will at some point receive notice from our vendor stating that you are now past your late fee. At that point in time, they can contest the citation to have that reduced. That is always a process. They can explain that to the parking citation company, and then it is reviewed by a personnel within the police department.
Okay.
And then we make the final determination if we will grant that.
Thank you.
or not. So. So,
I'm sorry, I actually did have one question on that same slide.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
you said there's an additional $15 assessment if we move into tier 3, and you noted that there are additional costs that we have to pay to DMV and other. Is that covered by $15?
in speaking with our vendor, yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
I guess while we're on this slide asking questions, Madam Mayor.
Yes, please.
So I'm looking at the bail schedule, and it's just me being nitpicky, and I'm sorry, but it says late fee, and to me, that's the late fee is the premium on top of the fine or the bail. If this is something we're going to submit, should it read fine with late fee, or do we just consider the whole thing a late fee at that point in time? And does it even matter?
So the pricing that you see on there for the late fee is the initial violation plus the plus 50%.
Understandable,
So at that point in time, that will be what the person pays. So we can reword that to state that I'm not opposed to that, or we could just basically say that we can reword that to.
I don't know if we have to. I'm just, to me, when I see something like a late fee, it feels like the premium part, not the actual, and I know I'm nitpicking here, but,
Captain, we may consider saying with late fee,
That's-
and then we could say with DMV hold, maybe.
Yeah,
thank you for that. I'm sorry.
don't have a problem.
It's great, the report's great, I just, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Please continue.
So with that, the parking bill schedule, so your standard fee currently right now with the fee schedule that was approved, the per violation is $77. If you look at the bill schedule, there are higher fees. Typically, with most cities, higher fees are related to handicap parking violations, parking in handicap spots, blocking handicap spots, blocking the ramps, because the city has done a lot to become ADA compliant. So we will make sure that the individuals comply there.
So just may I ask a question about that? So we are able to assess a higher fee there for deterrence, even though probably in terms of actual cost, it's probably not, like processing one violation versus the other is not going to be different.
So the words here matter. This isn't a fee, it's a fine or penalty. And because it's a fine or penalty, it doesn't need to be cost neutral.
Okay, thank you. Please,
Okay.
sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, I know, this has been very disjointed, thank you.
Okay. So the late fee would be, if the fine is not paid within 21 days, 50% added on top of the initial fee. And then for DMV holds, if a DMV hold occurs, then there's a $15 assessment fee there.
Thank you.
So examples of violations would be for overnight parking. If someone was issued a citation for overnight parking, the initial fine would be $77. If they did not pay the citation within the 21 days, the pricing would be $115 and 50 cents. And then if they did not pay the citation or take care of the citation or contest it, it would eventually go to a DMV hold, and the price there would be $130.50. Additionally, for parking in a disabled parking spot, the initial fine would be $231. The late fee would be $346, and then the DMV hold would be the price indicated there.
Are these amounts similar to other cities surrounding us, or how did we determine these amounts?
So the base fine for your typical violations are set by city fees. So I look at the city fee schedule, and there is a section in there for city code violations. So I use that across the board for all of the violations, except for obviously disabled parking. When you look at surrounding cities and cities throughout the county, those are typically at a higher dollar amount than your basic fines. Some go as high as $300 to $400. Some are a couple of hundred. It kind of varies. I basically took the base price, increased that by three times, and that gave me the $231.
So just to reiterate, that's not a fee. It was more like the fine study of how much it cost us to do the violation. But again, it's not a fee, because fees would mean that we can only do cost recovery. So this is, right, this is a fine cost, like how much it cost our police department to go out and cite, and the cost to recover. Are we losing funds on this? Go ahead, sorry.
I was gonna say, I think it is, you can term it a fee study, because we're trying to figure out what our costs are involved in this, but we can impose a fine that's independent of the cost.
And when we did the fee study, would you know this? I don't know, city manager. Do you know if this is what it would cost us? I mean, it seems like it would cost the police department, but did we also add in the factor of how much that processing fee is with the company that we use as a third party?
So I would have to defer to our finance director who was, it was actually our finance director, maybe our interim finance director might be able to expand on that.
I wouldn't want to lose money, you know what I mean? I'm hoping we don't lose money when we.
And she's no longer here, so I can bring back that information.
Yeah, I was wondering, that's one of my questions, I guess, would be, are we losing money by citing people?
Any other questions on that side? Okay, thank you.
So, sorry.
Please proceed.
So in summary, approval of ordinance 1475 aligns us with state requirements. Approval of resolution 2469 ensures compliance and cost recovery for parking enforcement operations. And that concludes my report.
I think we asked questions during, but does anybody have any lingering overarching questions?
I do in terms of process. At one point, we were talking about other ways of doing parking, like say downtown parking hourly or parking up by the hiking trails. If we add that at a later time, would we change this wording in this resolution? Would that have to be added to this, amended?
You can always amend the resolution. The ordinance itself provides the police department with the authority and the city with the authority to collect and impose these fines, and then
We would just
the
add
bail
to that.
schedules by resolution, that changes all the time.
Thank you.
So I thought of a question. So if we haven't compared these to other cities, I guess, say again why you didn't compare these to other cities?
We did.
Did we?
Yeah,
the disabled
for the
parking
disabled
space,
parking.
not for
Disabled
the
parking,
overnight.
but yeah, not for the overnight.
The
So-
overnight was based on what we included in our
In the fee
in the fee schedule study.
That's why my question was,
Got it.
is
Okay,
it
now
total
I'm
cost
catching up.
recovery, or is it just
Yeah.
for our personnel?
Got it. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I will then open it up for public comment on this topic.
We have no speaker cards, Madam Mayor, and we did not receive any emails on this topic, on this public hearing.
Thank you. All right, so coming back for discussion, I mean, I guess just to level set, the way I'm understanding this is generally in line with what we are doing, but we need an actual ordinance formally to proceed with collection and enforcement. So to me, this sort of seems a little bit like a, sort of pro forma act because, this is in line with what we're already doing, but I am happy to entertain a discussion.
Are we approving the prices as well in this part of the ordinance?
Yes.
I'd be not necessarily wanting to approve it unless I know that we're not losing money by citing people at night. I don't want to issue tickets and then where it's actually costing us money.
I guess I would assume because it's based on the fee study that we did that it includes all the costs, but maybe that's
I
not,
think it
maybe
was
that's
just
not the
our
case.
personnel, though. When we looked at the fee study, it only did our personnel. It didn't necessarily include the third-party processing for both traffic and for ticket services, because we were using another service the whole time for overnight parking and for parking downtown.
I know, but
And now we just canceled
that's why
that.
it would surprise me that it didn't take that into account because we have a contract with them that actually requires us to
That actually
pay.
adds to it. We weren't using our own personnel before.
Let
when we
me,
did the fee study.
Mayor, if you would allow me to phrase a question to Captain Amos. So the $77 includes the contract for writing the ticket plus personnel cost?
So are you asking for our processing company or the company that we at one point had issuing these citations?
What does the $77 come from?
The $77 came from the fee schedule. The personnel costs were put into the general fee schedule study, and it was looked at. If we're looking at actual personnel costs, our personnel cost was way higher than what was set, but it was discussed and the prices were brought down to be more reasonable for enforcing it in the community. So.
If I recall, Mayor and Council, council decided that there were certain items that the city would subsidize, and I believe that maybe this was one of them.
So in actuality, then, it's gonna be costing us to cite people for overnight parking, which puts a burden on our budget.
But I think at the end of the day, we need an ordinance, and we can change that through resolution. So, we could go for with $77 for a meeting or two, and then change it through resolution if we decide to.
Yeah, I think that's, in terms of procedure, I do want to get the ordinance, the first reading of the ordinance on the book, and then the bail schedule, as you called it, I think we can
Modify.
update, just
great-
like we
great-
would any other fees and fines. Great catch.
Yeah, I was gonna add that, you can do the first reading today, and then we can bring back the resolution for the second reading, because this fee schedule won't take effect unless the ordinance is taken effect. So because they should align it, they should take effect at the same time roughly, we can bring this back for second reading if you'd like, and we can answer that question specifically as to what costs were actually factored in.
And
if
what,
you'd
and
like.
what do other cities, I mean, if we do raise it, are we being astronomical compared to our next door neighbors? I mean, could we kind of look at that too?
Well, I can answer that question. In looking at the different fee schedules, our current fee right now is consistent with what is across the board for other cities. It's, the highest I've seen was about $100. The lowest I've seen was about $40. So we are in that range, typically with most other jurisdictions.
Thank you.
Speaking from experience, I just left my car out. $55.70.
And how much is an annual pass here in Sierra Madre?
It's about I want to say about 115, 120. Yes. And that is also consistent with most others.
Thank you for
Thank you
anticipating.
so much
Yes.
for your research.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion to introduce by first reading the ordinance and approve, and I guess not approve the resolution.
To you.
Which is consistent with what we just discussed. So I would suggest that based on our discussion, but I'm happy to entertain whatever motion someone wants to make.
I move to, for the reading of ordinance 1475, adding chapter 10.28 to title 10 of the Sierra Madre Municipal Code. And I don't, and I wouldn't make a resolution on, I wouldn't make a motion on the resolution at this point in time.
Okay,
Just
so
wanna
we have
introduce
yes, we have a resolution to introduce for first reading the ordinance number 1475. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, our next public hearing is the first reading of ordinance 1476, amending chapter 3.08, the purchasing procedures of Title III of the Sierra Madre Municipal Code. And I believe we have a report on that from our city attorney.
Correct.
Thank you, Mayor. So, this ordinance is in regards to UPCA, which stands for the Uniform Public Construction Cost Accounting Act. UPCA was adopted in the 80s, and the reason UPCA is necessary is because under the Public Contract Code, the default rules for a city is that every contract above $5,000 needs to be publicly bid. And public bidding is an extensive and sometimes costly process. So UPCA was adopted by the legislature to make it easier to avoid the public bidding process, so long as the city adhered by certain advertising standards and other standards when they did decide to, when they met a certain threshold. Under current law, a contract doesn't need to go through any public bidding at $60,000 or less. Informal public bidding, when it goes to from 60,000 to, I believe, 200. And then everything above $200,000 for a public works project needs to be publicly bid, formal. In the city of Sierra Madre, we have lower thresholds. Instead of going the full 60, the city council at the time in 2017 chose to go to only 45. And instead of going the full 200,000 and less for informal public bidding, the city chose 170. Because of inflation, the legislators adopted decided to expand, to increase those thresholds. So now the increased thresholds are everything $70,000 or less doesn't need to be publicly bid. And everything $220,000 or less can be informal bidding. And everything above 220 needs to go through the formal bidding process. The city staff is recommending that the city take advantage of the maximum bidding thresholds that exist under law as of January 1st, 2025. That will take effect. And the practical effect is that the city council is going to see fewer small dollar contracts for approval. So everything $70,000 less is going to be approved by staff. It won't be coming to the city council. And that concludes my report.
Questions?
So just because it's approved by staff, it still needs to be within the budget?
It still needs to be within the budget.
Thank you.
So when you say informal public bidding, that's code for city council, approval in an open meeting?
Yep, yes. There's a procedure in UPCA for what constitutes informal bidding, and there's a procedure for what constitutes formal bidding. And city staff will need to abide by those UPCA procedures if it falls within those thresholds.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Any public comment for this item on the agenda?
We have no speaker cards, Madam Mayor, nor did we receive emails.
Okay, discussion.
I like going with the industry more norms. I think that, well, I should say that. I think it's because we trust our staff to follow the budgets. And I guess maybe if it wasn't the staff that we had now, then I wouldn't know if it's any different. But as our current staffing and I trust that they do their due diligence, and so I would be more inclined to go with what the norm is, or what legislature says.
I want to point out that they only just increased it by 10% from the 80s, so I'm not even sure what inflationary index they were looking at.
But it sounds like we were still below that even. So they increased it, but we were still 15,000 beneath that.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just commenting that seemed crazy to me.
I agree with that. I have no problem with the trust the staff's fine. But here's the but. It's silly. But as a council member, I've learned a lot about how we govern by having these requests come to us. It kind of gets us an opportunity to peer inside the operations that we aren't going to get now. You're going to see a significant change in that, which is okay. I mean, I think this is good, but I've learned a lot by just these signing off on silly purchases.
I think you're going to see our costs, though, so high now that you won't be seeing such smaller.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not.
Yeah, that's a question. I mean, just anecdotally, City Manager Reynoso, do you think the change between 50, I think it's 50 to 60, right? Or 60?
Do you want our current standard, or do you want?
Current standard.
So because currently we're at 45,000.
45, and it would
so
move
up to 70.
Move to 70. I mean, are there a lot of contracts between 45 and 70? Because your signing authority is at what level?
Right now, I think it's
45.
45,000. So I think that Councilmember Garcia made an excellent point, is that everything that we're going to bring to council that year is going to be part of the budget process, is going to be approved by council. That's number one. And to your question, we've seen reports that in the past were $20,000, $30,000 are now $60,000 to $70,000. So I think that this will probably still see the same reports because of that inflation cost. Most likely are still going to be coming to council.
And importantly, what's not changing is the director level approval threshold, which is set at 5,000. So now the city manager gets the discretion between 5,000 and 70,000. So really what you're doing is you're providing the city manager, who's a direct report, more authority to make these types of calls.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I think to Councilmember Lowe's point, given our current staff, it makes me comfortable because I've seen a handful of times where City Manager Reynoso, something was within his signing authority, and he thought it was important enough to be on an agenda, and he puts it on there because it's important to the council and important to the community. But, you know, hopefully you're here for a long time, Jose, but.
Well, it
we-
also
we-
change it.
It doesn't prevent us from asking, right? I mean, we have weekly one-on-one meetings with the city manager, and whether it's, you know, city manager Reynoso or someone else, there's nothing that would stop us from asking, you know, what contracts are you know, signing this week or this month or whatever. So you know, and to your
we'll
point.
see him on the warrants.
Right, and to your point, it doesn't prevent the city manager from bringing forward contracts that are below the threshold.
Yeah. That's helpful.
Anything further?
Mayor, if I may add, policy-wise, one of the things that, and it was a recommendation from our city attorney, is that even if we have a contract with, let's say we have a contract with the city of Arcadia, even if it's below the $70,000, that's still something that we would bring to council, something that's with another agency. So you would still see contracts like that.
Is that required by ordinance or not?
No, it's just my recommendation that 3 types of contracts always come before council. The ones that exceed the city manager's threshold, those that contract with other public agencies, so not like private consultants, but other public agencies. And third, those that are political in nature.
Then I will move to introduce for first reading ordinance 1476, amending chapter 3.08 of the Sierra Madre Municipal Code.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. All right, and we have a third first reading with respect to ordinance 1474, regulating the parking of oversized commercial or recreational vehicles and trailers in residential districts. And those of you who are regular attenders or watchers know that this is a repeat of an item that we have previously addressed in prior meetings, and I think it's been brought back to us based on the prior discussion. So I think
City attorney is going to present on that one?
yes, great, thank you.
So Mayor, as you stated, you've considered this before. I wasn't at that meeting, but I did review the minutes, and I spoke to the attorney that was covering for me, and I think I got a sense of what the concerns were. Just to provide context for the public, this is coming before the city council because the city has received a number of code enforcement complaints related to oversized vehicles and unattached trailers. The concern is that these oversized vehicles and unattached trailers reduce roadway space for motorists, occupy multiple parking spaces, limit the line of sight of approaching traffic at intersections and driveways, and cause visual blight. And so the following amendments are being considered to our municipal code. The first is we're introducing a definition for commercial vehicle that's consistent with what the vehicle code defines for a commercial vehicle. We're adding a definition for oversized recreational commercial vehicle. There is no such definition in the vehicle code, so this is staff's definition. And if I understood correctly from the last meeting, the concern was regarding the size of the size of what's considered an oversized vehicle, in that the prior language was too. It captured too many vehicles. It needed to be broader. So before, I think it was 7 feet of width. That's been increased to 8 feet, and the length, what used to be 20 feet, and now it's been increased to 25 feet. So this will capture fewer vehicles in the definition of what's considered oversized. We are also introducing a definition for recreational vehicle, again, tied to what's in the vehicle code. Introducing a definition for trailer, also tied to what's in the vehicle code. We're amending a section of our municipal code regarding the use of streets for storage of vehicles. And we're specifically stating that every vehicle can be parked on a public street for 72 hours, except oversized vehicles. Oversized vehicles, as defined, need to get special permission because they are unique in the way they impact streets.
Oversized would be over the 25.
Yeah, just to repeat the definition, it's over 8 feet in width or 25 feet in overall length.
And how long can they park?
72 hours.
No, but the
Oversized.
oversized.
Not at all.
They need to get special approval from the city.
And what is the approval? What is approved?
That's within the discretion of the police department.
Okay. Do we have a policy?
Yeah,
for
how do
it?
they do that?
I'm not aware of a policy on this. We provide them with the discretion on a case-by-case basis, is my understanding. The municipal code is also being proposed to be amended to clarify that no person shall park an oversized recreational or commercial vehicle in a city street or alley except when they're doing the following things. That same rule is being extended to unattached trailers. Again, except when they're doing certain things with those unattached trailers. And then an existing portion of the code that was always there and is now being moved to section 10.24.380, and we're retitling it other prohibited uses. And that language had been there before. We're just moving it to a new code. We're giving it a new section because we think it's more appropriate as a standalone section.
Can I ask you a defining question then? Would the oversized length be just the recreational vehicle and not the truck attached to it? Because the truck is a regular length truck. So if you have a truck with the trailer, if you combine those, it's over 25 feet, always. So is the definition, which is by definition, it says only the recreational vehicle part, which would be the trailer itself, that can be 25 feet, and then it's okay that it's attached to it. It has to actually be attached to the truck.
Right.
But that's not inclusive of the 25 feet, is the truck and the trailer.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So I'm looking at the definition of recreational vehicle here.
Yeah.
And I believe that the definition of recreational vehicle captures recreational vehicles that have a trailer attached.
Well,
so, yeah.
but I mean, we now have a definition of capital T trailer, which is not used in the definition of recreational vehicle, because it says or other vehicle or lowercase t trailer. What is the intended relationship between that trailer, referenced in the definition of recreational vehicle, and capital T trailer?
The definition of trailer, the standalone definition, is a bit broader, and really we're applying that to, we're trying to capture we're trying to capture all unattached trailers. That's what it really relates to.
Okay, as long as we think it's clear that the lowercase t trailer used in recreational vehicle is not intended to also capture unattached trailers. I guess not, because I guess it's all qualified by designed or altered for human habitation. And, well, I don't know. I don't know enough about unattached trailers to know whether that exempts, whether that qualification would exempt a standalone trailer. Anyway, I don't want to get too bogged down in this, but I just want to make sure that we're not creating another problem with the reference to trailer in the definition of recreational vehicle.
Right. So the definition of trailer, the standalone definition, is broader. So it will capture more than the individual definition for like fifth wheel travel trailer or
Okay.
the other trailer references.
So we would take the position that if someone said, but this was a trailer that's a recreational vehicle, I should have that, and we say no, it's a trailer as defined by the capital T trailer, and that's what's going to govern.
Right. Correct.
Okay. Got it.
Unless you're unloading.
Well, yeah, that's different, but.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions?
So I just want to confirm, and I know it says it, but if somebody has an oversized recreational vehicle and they are loading or unloading, they don't need permission.
Right. So just going to that.
That's section 7A.
Section, right, it says, no person shall park an unattached trailer in any city street or alley except while loading property onto or unloading property from the oversized recreational or commercial vehicle. Correct, so that is an exception, and I'm just going back to section 6 of the ordinance. It says that this section does not apply to an oversized recreational commercial vehicle which is subject to 1024-310. And so 1024-310 provides the exception. I'm sorry, hold on.
Yeah, no, that's right.
24-310.
You read the trailer one, but the oversized recreational commercial vehicle has the same
Right.
exception.
Right. So, correct. That is a exception. So if they're doing that, then they don't need to apply for the special permission. But if they're not doing one of these three things, really, if they're doing three, they have to apply for special permission from the police department.
And I'd like to, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, in your explanation, you said unattached.
He read the wrong section.
Okay, because when I read the oversized, it doesn't say attached and or unattached. It just
Apologies, I read the following section, which was 315. That deals with unattached trailers.
So 310 in section 7 is what he should have read, but it has it's the same wording in terms of the ability to park to unload or load.
But it doesn't make a distinction between attached and unattached.
No.
The recreational doesn't, no.
And I just see this as some type of an issue that if we need to have PD, then create a policy for how these special requests are done, because otherwise we could have where people don't know who to call or don't even know what to do. And I wouldn't want them to call and it's a different policy depending on who's on duty. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think it should be somewhat of a universal policy, Chief, maybe, that you guys have some procedures for. If someone has a 32-foot motorhome, they're going to park it in front of their house for 2 days.
Yes, thank you for the question. So it would be on a case-by-case basis. So we would have to look at the width of the street. Is it obscuring? So we would look at many factors to approve the overnight or the parking.
And that also would permit you to allow overnight parking in a different location, right? So, because I know for a long time what you would hear is that, no, you can't do it in front of your house, but you can park it, on the boulevard.
Well, this is saying you can do it in front of your house if you get special permission.
Right, but I think, on the case-by-case basis, they might say, no, we're not going to give you permission to do it in front of your house. However, we'll give you an alternative location.
Not
So, I
if
mean,
you
it
live
would.
on Grandview, yeah, no.
Yes, for many years.
Sorry, it's a tight
For many
space.
years, we've had that courtesy where if you have a student who's here from school, staying at your residence, parking overnight, will you exempt? Or we had a 90-some-year-old lady who car was, the battery was out and needed a week to get it to the shop. Absolutely. We approve, I would say, 99.9 of them.
But this prevents it from overnight parking for like homeless and such, so that's why the code is good.
That's correct.
And Chief, is the approving authority, are you the approving authority or is it the watch commander?
It's the watch commander. Yes, so the sergeants will approve it.
Yeah, I'm actually personally in favor of allowing them discretion here, given sort of their understanding of the conditions that it might present.
Agreed.
All right, is there any further discussion? Or no, these were still questions, I think.
And I just want to confirm, as far as somebody with a disabled placard or somebody with a disability, would they still have discretion whether or not to allow that overnight issue?
Yes, of course.
What I mean is, because some people have need special accommodation. Could they preclude someone from parking if they ask for permission?
Yes.
They could?
Yes,
Okay.
they could preclude someone from parking. There's going to be some assessment of
Safety.
accommodation.
Okay.
And safety, right.
Now, the placard doesn't excuse them from the 72 hours, correct?
The 72 hours is state law that applies across the board.
Okay.
So even if this law didn't exist, even if this ordinance didn't exist, that 72-hour state vehicle code law would still apply to all recreational vehicles, whether oversized or not.
Thank you.
Okay, good follow-up, thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Okay. Public comment, I believe we have one public comment on this.
Yes, Madam Mayor, from Ron Coleman.
Back again. I think we've made a lot of progress on this, but when you said your recreational vehicle overall length, every recreational vehicle trailer, I shouldn't say that. I'm not sure about fifth wheels, but a regular bumper hitch trailer, I bought mine, it says it's a 24-foot trailer. I'm fine, because it says up to 25 feet. Except when you buy a trailer and it says 24 feet, that's measuring the box. If you're gonna count overall, if you wanna get down to being actually accurate on your ordinance, you can't say the overall length, because you have this much of the tongue coming out, so it's not the box. The tongue is not gonna obstruct any view or anything, but you wanna get this right, I think you need to realize what a trailer is. I think, how long, no, I can't ask the question. Somebody close to you in this room has a trailer, and he can talk about that later. You brought up handicap, and I was gonna call the state and find out the individual rules on handicap parking, because I know it's, don't have to pay a meter, you can park in a green zone, da-da-da-da. But I was gonna find out about a RV overnight. Do you know anything about that? Or should I pursue that farther?
Sure, please.
So, looks like Chief wants to answer that first, and then if you don't get to it, I'll get to it.
Sure, thank you for the question. So if your handicap placard is registered, you know all placards are registered to a vehicle. If it is registered to your RV, you are exempt.
Well, no, it's registered for my truck.
So then your truck is exempt. So you would have to get a handicap placard.
Okay.
Yes, if you have one that, because we look at the serial number of the handicap placard, should match with the vehicle when we cite.
Right.
So if it doesn't match, then you're not exempt, because you know very well, you could get your neighbor's handicap placard, put it in your RV, and say, I'm not saying you do, but that happens a lot here. So to avoid that, yes, if the numbers match, absolutely you're exempt from overnight.
But my trailer is not. You said if I have line for my truck.
Is it attached to your truck?
Yeah.
Then you're fine.
Okay.
Is that forever though? I mean, if for Mr. Coleman.
You still have to be within the 72 hours.
Yeah.
That's state code, no matter where you're at.
Right, because I want to make sure that we have the ability, if there was a very large, blocking traffic, we would have the ability to make a determination after a period of time.
And this is the police chief's call. He can make that call to say they're exempt. But even if it's less than 72 hours, if there's a public safety concern, that car can be moved.
Okay.
Doesn't have a right to be there.
Well, what I'd like to, when the chief said, anytime there's a special request, we have to look at the parameters of the street. How wide is the street? Because there's many streets in this town that they should never be able to get an overnight parking permit, But then, when I look at, I'm on Fairview, my street, I've measured it, it's wider than Grandview, Then if you go up to Miramonte, you can park 2 RVs on each side and still have a normal street in the middle. So okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. All right, bringing back for discussion.
So I'm trying to read Mr. Coleman's mind, and yeah, that was something that I considered in the definition. Is my trailer is a 20, and I'm just using mine as an example for other residents. My trailer is a 24 foot, not 24 inch. Trailer for ants. And it's considered a 24-foot trailer, but the tongue is 3 feet. So it's a 27-foot measurement if you measure it from, and there's a little bumper on the back too. I don't know if that's included. So we're talking, my trailer is considered smaller. So, but I don't think that's the issue right now. I think the issue is kind of the measurement and really having clean code that talks about, are we talking bumper to tongue, end of the tongue? Are we talking about the official size of the trailer, which would be, usually it's marked somewhere on the box, if that makes sense. So that's something to consider, and you might have commentary on that, what you recommend?
Yeah, when we were drafting the ordinance, I'll be honest, I wasn't thinking about tongues. I didn't know vehicles had tongues until right now. We were going off of what when the city manager, the police chief, myself, and code enforcement met. We were looking at recreational vehicle sizes and what's listed online, and that's what we were using as the measurement.
So just on that point, also not being familiar with trailers, you said that on many trailers the actual size is marked, like?
Sometimes, because mine's called something 24.
Oh, I see.
So, and, there are actually, I think mine is weathered, but per vehicle code, there are weight restrictions, tire pressure restrictions, and also I think some size is on there. I could be wrong, but I'm not an expert in it,
Yeah, I'm just asking because I know one of the other things we talked about last time this was up for discussion was, are we gonna have like someone pulling out a tape measure and, measuring it, and like, do we need to give, parameters around that? So, I was sort of heartened to hear that maybe they were actually labeled, but it sounds like it's not reliable enough to rely on that.
No, but I would think that when you're being cited as a violation, PD is familiar enough with vehicles and recreation vehicles, all types of vehicles, commercial vehicles, and they can tell speed just by watching a car come at them. They can tell exactly what speed that's going. So I'm sure they can also calculate the length of a truck or a trailer pretty quickly, just from their visual expertise, because I've seen how they go through their training, and it's amazing how they can do that. They can do rate times equals distance just by marking a car coming at them. That was 10 feet right there, and that's exactly how fast that car is going. So I think that within their this is a good enough definition for them to be able to implement. And if anything is larger than that, then they call and get special permission. But that 25 feet is within a trailer. And if it's 3 feet over, they have the discretion then to be like, well, that's a really tiny street. You can't park that here versus, you're on Sierra Madre Boulevard and there's lots of room. And it's within the code, and then I think it's defined as an appropriate length.
Yeah, but we have 2 data points in the room that are in that gray area.
Yeah.
So I think the ordinance should be specific, so there's no ambiguity. If it's with the tongue or without the tongue, I think we should have some specificity there.
Do you want to do 30 feet with the tongue then, or do you want to do 25 feet without the tongue?
Whatever.
What do you like?
The chief may have
Can I make a suggestion? If we could just make a notation that says not including the tongue?
Okay.
That's not what
Whether
we're worried
it's
about.
3 feet, 4 feet, 5-foot tongue.
That works.
I have a 50.
Just, I think that'd be easier.
Makes too much sense.
Mr. City Attorney, will that require a third first reading?
No, the city council can make that edit today if they'd like.
Okay.
And I think just practically speaking, this will be enforced not so much by the police department, but it's gonna be code enforcement based on complaints they receive.
Okay.
So I don't think we're gonna have officers driving around estimating. We're gonna have code enforcement officers going out and actually measuring.
Okay.
Let's make sure.
Then let's do it without
that.
the tongue.
Yep.
And let's make sure he knows that they can call PD and recommend this, that they can call PD and get a variance instead of just citing them.
And thank you for getting rid of the height.
Yes.
Because that was awkward. Do we have overall height restrictions in the city? I'm assuming because people can't. drive semis down Grandview, I don't think, or can't, I guess they can.
They can drive them, they can drive them down Lima, I can tell you that.
Film crews.
Weight restrictions, okay.
Yeah, generally.
Okay.
My trees tell you no, there's no height restrictions. Okay, so I think we, based on this discussion, if it's over, are looking for a motion to approve for first reading with the one addition that we just discussed.
So moved to approve the first reading of ordinance number 1474, regulating the parking of oversized vehicles or recreational vehicles and trailers in residential districts. With the addition of wording that the 25 foot in overall length is excluded, and it's 25 feet excluding tongue. And
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
just about your bumper.
Great. Okay, thank you very much for that. And then our last item is a discussion item on, I think in response to a prior request for updates regarding our crosswalk policies.
Director Yanez will be reporting.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council. I'm here to provide an update on Sierra Madre's crosswalk policies as requested by Councilmember Goss. I will outline our current policies, discuss key crosswalk installations, and provide context on how we ensure pedestrian safety through our crosswalk strategy. Our goal is to reinforce safety, accessible, and thoughtfully placed crosswalks in line with our city's vision and values, enhancing both community understanding and pedestrian experience. First, let's talk about why crosswalks are so crucial in Sierra Madre and the guiding principles behind them. The City Council requested this review to better understand the rationale for crosswalk locations and to ensure that our policies are effective in prioritizing pedestrian safety. The foundation of our crosswalk policies stems from the City Council and the City of Madre General Plan, which stresses the importance of pedestrian safety and accessibility across the city. When we decide where to place a crosswalk, we aim to fulfill three main objectives. One, create reasonable expectations. Crosswalk signal to both drivers and pedestrians where crossing activity is likely, promoting a shared understanding and reducing surprises on the road. Two, improve predictability. Mark crosswalks to visually guide drivers, helping them anticipate pedestrian movement, especially in busy or high traffic areas. Three, channel pedestrian movement by placing crosswalks where visibility and safety are highest. We guide pedestrians to safer crossing points, directing foot traffic to locations where drivers are most likely to see them. These priorities are essential, particularly in Sierra Madre's community-oriented environment where walkability and pedestrian-friendly spaces are so valued. Now let's look at the proposals behind some of our key crosswalk installations. Our crosswalks have been placed strategically in areas with the highest need for pedestrian safety. Downtown District, crosswalks at Sierra Madre Boulevard and Baldwin Avenue are designed to guide pedestrians safely through our busy downtown center. Connecting major commercial areas, these crosswalks improve visibility, ease access across main roads, and reinforce the pedestrian priority we all value in our downtown core. Grandview Avenue and Santa Anita Avenue. This location serves as a high-density residential area and a nearby school, making safety paramount. The crosswalk enhances visibility for both pedestrians and drivers, particularly at peak times when children are walking to and from school. Sierra Madre Boulevard at Sunnyside and Lima. Most of these crosswalks are equipped with flashing red lights to heighten driver awareness. In choosing these locations, we aim to address areas with complex intersections, high foot traffic, and visibility challenges, ensuring that pedestrians have safe, designated crossing points across town. The strategic approach helps maximize pedestrian safety and ease of access. As the council will recall, during our October meeting, a resident expressed concern with the crosswalk at Sierra Madre Boulevard and Park and shared their experience while crossing. I am pleased to share that I have met with the resident on site and have since restriped the crosswalk. Public Works is currently awaiting an order of the arrival of new signage for that intersection. Once we receive them, additional crosswalk signage will be placed at that intersection. Our crosswalk policies are rooted in the general plan and align with key safety and preservation goals. Let me highlight some of the major policies that guide our crosswalk installation and maintenance. 1, pedestrian safety and crosswalk improvement. Our objective here is twofold. First, to improve crossing opportunities where they're needed most, and second, to avoid making crosswalks that might create a false sense of security. We want every crosswalk to be a dependable, safe place for pedestrians to cross without luring drivers into complacency or giving pedestrians misplaced confidence in less safe locations. 2, circulation program. Our city circulation program commits us to a continuous review of policies related to crosswalks, parking, and pedestrian safety. We aim to keep our crosswalk policies current with best practices, ensuring they evolve as safety research and traffic dynamics change over time. Moving forward, our approach will be proactive and respond to the needs of our community. Here's what we plan to do. 1, ongoing evaluation. We will continue to assess crosswalk safety placement and design. This means observing crosswalk usage patterns, responding to feedback from residents, and taking into account any new developments that might impact pedestrian traffic. 2, policy development. Based on our observations and data, we develop a comprehensive scope of work to formalize our crosswalk policy guidelines. This will allow us to have a structured, documented approach to crosswalk installations, ensuring consistency and transparency. 3, future council involvement. As we move forward with updates or new crosswalk installations, Public Works will keep the council informed and engaged. Each proposed change will be reviewed by the council to ensure it aligns with city goals and community interest. This update tonight is informational with no immediate fiscal impact. However, as we consider future projects, any significant crosswalk improvements or new installations will be evaluated individually for potential cost and funding requirements. Our goal is to be cost effective and ensure that all crosswalk related expenses are justifiable, with a clear benefit to pedestrian safety and accessibility. In closing, I want to reaffirm our commitment to pedestrian safety in Sierra Madre. Crosswalks are an essential part of our city's infrastructure, connecting our community and making it safer for everyone to move around. As we continue to assess and enhance our crosswalk policies, we invite feedback from both the council and the community to ensure that our approach remains thoughtful, effective, and in line with Sierra Madre's values. Thank you. At this time, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
No question.
Councilmember Goss.
Thank you for the report, Director.
Thank you, sir.
So this comprehensive citywide circulation plan by the first quarter of 2025, so that's the big one, right?
Yes, sir.
We're waiting for. And what, can you just review generally what's included in that, just in terms of categories?
There will be, working with our police department, working Chief Barrientos with Captain Amos, from a police perspective, as far as there are some things that from an engineering perspective, we're not aware of. We're looking at accidents, that be citations, things like that.
Right.
That we'll take into consideration.
So you're looking at traffic safety from a multi-dimensional point of view.
That is correct, sir.
Okay. And so that's in the works.
That's in the works.
Okay, cool.
Again, did you say that our own PD and our own Public Works Department are able to do this? We're not jobbing it out with anybody?
Thank you for the question. Do you mind if I answer?
Go ahead, sir.
So, it's been, I think it's been within this year that council designated, I think it was 6 or 9 intersections. And as Director Inez pointed out, Public Works has some input, PD has some input, but this is gonna require a third-party engineering firm to come in and do the final assessment. One of the reasons why we haven't been able to move forward with it is because of funding. And I believe that Public Works has identified a funding source, and so we'll be moving forward and bringing that to council soon.
But to clarify, Councilmember Goss, your question was about the SafeTrack comprehensive review that's likely to.
Using their data, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
so, yeah. I think
Was that the one that we did about 2 years ago?
So that was done by the
Berkeley?
University of California, Berkeley?
Berkeley, sir.
And we never
And-
got that
and
back,
so,
right?
so that document serves as a guiding document for the city when we do improvements in certain areas, to look at ways that we can improve pedestrian safety and mobility, but it wasn't really designed to come back to the council to give a presentation.
It's just one dimension of it, correct?
Correct.
And we never saw that, correct?
Correct. And Management Analyst Carlson, would you like to expand on that?
Because I know we were asking about it in reference to other issues like school traffic and things like that, and we kept asking and asking, so I didn't know.
Yeah, as City Manager Reynoso says, that's just gonna be one of the components, one of the tools that we use as we keep going forward. And I will distribute it tomorrow. We're not hiding it from you. It's just not something that comes up for formal adoption because it's not its purpose to be formally adopted in certain ways. It's to be a tool. He also mentioned the specific traffic studies that we're pursuing in 6 intersections, and slightly different are traffic surveys, which are going to be done in 22 different segments or corridors. It's 2 or 3 blocks at a time, and that's what we are trying to find the funding for, and just go through an RFP process for that. All 3 of those things that I just mentioned are going to, work with the Director of Public Works and the Police Department, and we're going to keep making improvements.
Thank you.
Any
I'd love
other
to see
questions?
that, because I'm a data person. Yeah, I did have a couple of questions. New crosswalks. We were talking about 4-way stops and a crosswalk at Grandview and at your home at Cannon. Is that in the plans?
That is correct, Councilmember.
Okay. And then the other question are, how are the flashing lights maintained, or is there a schedule that they're checked to make sure they're working? And if they're not working, how quickly do we get it turned over for repair?
We try and make those repairs as fast as we can, due to the fact it's an important item in our infrastructure. We have what we call a visual inspection. Due to the staff that they're out there on a daily basis, should we see a light malfunctioning, immediately it gets reported and we take care of it immediately. As far as the schedule is concerned, we do our weekly drive arounds to see what infrastructure is out in need.
Yeah, I would prefer that versus residents complaining and that this is not working. I'd rather have it proactive, you know what I'm saying?
Of course,
Yeah,
definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember, and we do proactively monitor, but we also rely on residents to inform us. But one thing to note is, and we saw this right after the pandemic when there were supply chain issues, that we would have lights go down and it would take some time. I believe they come from Texas? Am I correct?
Texas and Georgia.
So there were some issues in getting repair parts, and I'm not sure if those supply chain issues have been resolved. But if you did see extended periods of repair, it was in large part due to some supply chain issues that we were experiencing.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Do we have any preventive maintenance? I'm thinking mainly of the flashing crosswalks. And I think it makes sense, we go around and we look at things, but sometimes there is, things you can do, you can look at to see if things are working, checking batteries or checking, I don't know, I don't think they're battery powered, but they're electric powered. I mean, there's got, I imagine there is some preventive maintenance that could be done on them. Do we have a preventive maintenance plan for those items?
Yes, we do, Councilmember. That's a very good question. We have solar powered crosswalks. So maintenance of cleaning the actual glassware itself, battery testing. We have battery backup at the city yard. One of our staff members, who happens to be very technically savvy when it comes to our crosswalk design, he will go out there and check our visual components that are visible from the outside, wiring systems, etc. Even as far as dusting certain pieces of the equipment off.
That's all amazing. Thank you.
Other questions?
Madam Mayor. So I'm trying to understand what, this is all great. Thank you for the report.
Thank you,
and the presentation. I'm trying to wrap my head around what happens at the end. So I'm thinking of intersections. you know, a vitally important crosswalk is Park and the Boulevard. But I think I've seen people standing at that on the north side of the Boulevard waiting for a long time before they can cross. And I think it's vital because we have Lima on one side and the library's in the middle. So there's probably a lot of circulation heading towards the library from that crosswalk. So let's say there's an engineering study or a traffic study or something. When it comes back, how do we solve the problem, other than just pure enforcement, that people are aware that people want to step off the curb, and without having a lot of Las Vegas flashing lights in a more residential neighborhood? I mean, what's the end goal? Like, how do we solve the problem? Does the engineer come up with that? Does Public Works? Does PD? How does that work?
That's a very good question, sir, because you're thinking ahead. What I forecast, upon the completion of the library, we will see an increase in pedestrian traffic. We have a new library. People want to go to the library. I'm considering a study for a crosswalk in front of the library, the new library. So what I want to know is, here I have a library, brand new library. The engineering behind a crosswalk here in front of the library, but yet 50 yards down the road, I have the existing crosswalk. I need to find out the configurations from a law enforcement perspective, from state transportation guidelines. Is that doable? If I have a vehicle here that's accelerating at a certain speed and then have to slow down, you know, a couple of seconds later, hit and miss here and there. For the current system we have in place now, I'm looking at illuminated. It's a paint that goes on. Fairy dust. Sprinkles are added to that paint, which gives you a glare as you're driving up. Additional signage, not flashing lights. Additional signage at 25 yards, going westbound and eastbound. These will be neon colored signage, which will light up upon vehicle lights once hitting them. I totally understand if a resident doesn't, you know, installing flashers in front of their home, of course not. We take that into consideration too. But pedestrian safety is number one.
Yeah, and I like, and I'm not trying to make a comment, but thank you for, I guess I'll make a comment. Thank you for bringing up the false sense of security, because I believe that needs to be considered. If you put a crosswalk and, you know, not all kids have been told, look left, look right, then look left again. I guess if you're not in the UK, right? And proceed. A lot of kids just jump off the curb. There is a false sense of security. So how do we, you know, without going into homes and having education about how to cross the street, have you seen in your experience effective ways to prevent those types of issues?
A joint collaboration with PD, engineering studies, along with making the community aware of what's happening here. And from a public works perspective, additional, I'm not saying we are, you know, there's speed bumps. There is what I call the pyramid approach, where if a driver is coming up to an intersection, there is what looks like a pyramid if you're looking at it from the aerial view. So kind of gives the mind, hey, something's coming up here, I need to slow down. So it'll be 1 stripe, 2 stripes, 3 stripes, etc. Yeah.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
No, I see what you're saying.
You're driving.
It's warning the driver on the road
yes.
that something is coming up.
25 yards up ahead, there's a
something.
crosswalk. There's something coming up. So
okay.
Again, once the lights hit that at night, it will reflect. So.
Councilmember Garcia, in Director Inez's presentation, he also alluded to developing a scope of work. So what we have in Sierra Madre is we have the general plan that provides guidelines, some light policy on crosswalks. But what we've seen in other agencies is that they have a dedicated specific crosswalk policy. And so one of the things that we're looking at doing is creating a scope of work, then getting a budget to see what that would cost to do a crosswalk assessment and crosswalk policy for the entire city. Then we can bring that back to council to see if there's funding available to do something like that. So we do have guiding policies, but I think there's an opportunity to expand that to have a more city-encompassed crosswalk policy in the future.
That's great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Because I have one. So you specifically mentioned the intersection at the Boulevard and Park, and that you were waiting for additional signage. And I'm just wondering, like, when you say, are you talking about the kind of signage we were just discussing? I don't think you're talking about the lighted signage. So when you say you're waiting for additional signage, what does that mean?
Additional signage, this will be a diamond-shaped signage, which is a neon green silhouette of a individual crossing. Instead of flashers, upon my research and study, that is our best alternative.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay.
You're welcome.
All right, so I will, this is, I think, receive and file, so I don't think we actually have action, but I will take public comment in case there's any.
No speaker cards at this time, Madam Mayor, and no emails were received.
So I will open it for discussion, even though I don't think there's an actual action item, just because I think there might be some topics of interest, if anyone has any discussion they want to engage in.
Well, I think you've already made some headway on the crosswalk at Park on the Boulevard, right? So that's definitely good. Yeah, the rest of this I felt was very useful. I am interested very much in that overall study that you're gonna bring to us in the first quarter. I think that's something that the public is, still concerned about, safety on our streets.
Definitely.
I'd echo that sentiment. I'm glad to hear that six intersection study is coming forward, and look forward to seeing that in the first quarter of next year.
I am, completely sympathetic, obviously, to all of the concerns about the pedestrian, but I also want to make sure that we're not, we can't have a stop sign at every corner. So, I mean, we also have to sort of, take into account, which it sounds like we are, the traffic flow as well, because it's not going to appeal to anyone to have backed up traffic either. And so that that balance between making intersections safe for pedestrians, but not creating, undue traffic bottlenecks, I think is obviously our mutual goal.
I work in a district in a city that prior to COVID, they had one pedestrian hit a day. It's the highest incidences of pedestrian versus vehicle, or bicycle versus vehicle. And we had lost one student across the street from my school 6 years ago. And so it really it scares me that we would never, I appreciate all of this work because I don't want something bad to happen and then we react. I love how proactive our city is, and I love how when our citizens and residents speak out and parents speak out, that we listen and we come up with automatic solutions right away and ways to change that. So I really commend you and with your collaboration with PD and everything, and making sure our kids are safe and we're safe. Because we know everyone's distracted nowadays. Thank you.
All right, well, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate all your work on this.
Thank you, Council.
Okay, that's the end of our agenda. So I will ask if anyone has items for future agenda consideration.
I will defer to my colleague over here on the issue of the.
Yeah, so we were discussing that, got a little bit into a discussion regarding the treasurer's report. So we did receive public comment via email. That actually, I could have written that email. I really appreciate what was said there regarding expenses and long-term.
Do you want to read into the record what that public comment was, just so that there's so people listening or people here understand kind of what, you don't have to read it, but just the gist of it?
Yeah, it was a resident recommending what the resident calls a revenue enhancement committee. We did have a special revenue committee in 2015, but it's similar, where we're projecting a budget shortfall. There are ways to solve it, right? And I think part of it is having an understanding of the expenses. There's a lot of rhetoric regarding a lot of armchair social media buffs on public finance and touting that there's lots of cuts to be made, but as we know, as we sit here, we're about as lean as we can get. We've heard that from but anyway, I don't get into too much discussion. But I have my glasses on, but it says, I'll read part of a paragraph. It seems to me that the city needs an energetic working group given advisory-only authority to the council to seriously examine revenue enhancement ideas that would be compatible with the city's historic character, but effective in keeping revenues and expenses balanced in the future. And then some discussion about different ideas that have been passed around. So I don't know if it's an ad hoc, if it's something that city manager could put together, but I would want some resident input in this. We have 2 years to another election, so I'm thinking about that, and we have a lot of work to do to make sure we're educating our residents on what our finances really look like in plain, open, transparent ways. So
That's why I suggest we agendize everything you just said.
Yeah.
Put into one meeting, and hopefully we can come up with something like that.
I would add that I think as much as that is all the right forward-looking, type of discussion, certainly on the revenue side, also on the expense side, but I'd also like to spend a little bit of time understanding some sort of postmortem on our measure that did not pass, and some understanding about what factors went into that. I mean, it was one of the only, if not the only, public safety or other revenue-raising measure that didn't pass in the county. It certainly is the only one on our ballot that didn't pass, and so I would be interested to know, what feedback we could get from either the consultants that I know that worked with the proponents or otherwise to understand, kind of what went wrong so that, it can inform all of these forward-looking.
I can tell you too
when you
that-
say our measure, I think you don't.
I meant the measure on our ballot.
That was
excuse me,
another
yes.
misinformation machine.
Yes,
right?
yes,
It
no,
was
I'm
not our
sorry.
council's
No,
measure.
I know, I meant.
I can tell you that 12 other measures in the, public safety measures in the county passed, and only 2 failed, us and Hermosa Beach. Sierra Madre's and Hermosa Beach.
And kind of in that vein, I want to make sure that, and I don't know if it's an agendized item, but I want discussion on it, because we went from a volunteer to a semi-volunteer to a fully professional fire department. And there's something called the GAN limit that I don't know, was ever discussed in this during that campaign that we need to consider. So I want to make sure that we have considerations of the GAN limit, and the GAN limit, from my understanding, takes population growth as well as inflation, and it comes up with, I think it's from 1979, your budget can only be within these parameters, but we've had population decrease a little bit, so I don't know what our GAN limit is, and if there's any special carve-outs for cities like ours that went from having a non-paid fire department to having a paid fire department, that we can, I'm not saying, I think that GAN limit's there for a good reason, but I want to make sure that we're not writing checks back to our residents and asking too much because we can't. So I don't know if that's something the city attorney, we can agendize the city attorney providing a presentation on that, or something of that nature. So we're considering everything now.
In other words, you would have to, he would know, our city attorney knows better, but within that limit, there's a certain amount of years when you add a new revenue source or a new expenditure source, such as a new fire department, with an increase in population or an increase in something like it's a new department, that you have a time limit where you don't have to spend all of that tax dollars before you have to refund it.
Councilmember Garcia, we have already began working on looking at GAN limit, city attorney, our finance department, and myself, so that's already in the works, and we'll be happy to bring that back to council. On the item of the ad hoc committee, Mayor, I'd like to make a recommendation that if I have your blessing, maybe I can begin forming the ad hoc committee, bringing in a couple of council members to talk about just scope of work and maybe finding which community members are interested. Then we can bring that back to the next council meeting, maybe in January. If I do it, it's an ad hoc committee, not subject to the Brown Act. If the legislative body forms a ad hoc committee, then it becomes subject to the Brown Act. So it gives us a little bit more flexibility to use staff, city council, and community. Because if the legislative body forms it, staff will not be able to participate.
It has to be like a commission.
Yeah, no, I think that's fine. I'm fine with that. Thank you.
I can tell you Jim Kelly is interested, the one proponent, and I spoke to him for about 3 hours one afternoon about all of his ideas. And then Mike Comer was also interested.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, because I think it's vital to have discussions with our finance department and some of our E-team and directors to have an understanding, not just the revenue side, but the expense side, because I know that's been discussed at length. So, no, I thank you, Madam Mayor. I think having staff available, I think most ad hocs from the legislative, you can't have staff.
Right.
So I think that's an important component.
And I'm also, I would also encourage, being creative about, whether we have the, Jim Kelly Revenue Committee and, and then, maybe there's a separate, but related, committee with respect to on the cost side, because, I think there's been, like you said, lots of public pronouncements that there's plenty to cut. And so I'd love to hear folks in town, residents tell us what they think should be cut, and then understand what that, what savings that would generate or not, or, what things have already been cut. I think the more we increase public participation in this type of effort, the better the communication will be, because in part we all know that we have such a difficult time communicating out to the public in ways that actually educate them. So I think the more residents we can get involved, the easier it will be to provide that information, because then there's more sources of of communication.
And finally, on the after action report, I'll reach out to the consultant, but because we weren't involved with that, it may be a little bit of a challenge, but we'll work on to see.
Yeah, no, I mean, I and it doesn't have to be them. I mean, I also don't want to obviously spend any money on on this, and so to the extent that maybe the proponents could ask for a postmortem, or it seems like a reasonable thing to ask your consultant when they've consulted on the passage of something and it didn't pass, to ask them to provide at least some feedback on what could be done differently, and if that's in writing and we can just receive that, that's fine.
Yeah, they said they would do that for our city for free.
Oh, okay, good.
Right. So I like everything that's been said here. My view of what we've heard on the revenue enhancements is, and even the expenses is more looking long term. We're about to head into a new budget year, because the budget process, I believe, kicks off at the start of the year. And I think that it would be good to start with, because we know we're going into deficit. So it'd be good to try to have a little bit more visibility on that and look at what is it can we start right now doing as we start looking at those revenue opportunities in the future. So how can we cut expenses starting in the second half of this fiscal year and into the next fiscal year.
Do you have what you need? Anything else? All right, well.
Move to adjourn.
Oh, wait, hold on, sorry. I wanted to say one thing. This might be my last meeting to adjourn, so I just want to thank everybody for all of the support I've gotten throughout this term. And I know we'll have another meeting where we do the reorganization, but this will be the last time, perhaps, that I will adjourn. So I just wanted to adjourn with gratitude to all the staff and all the residents and my fellow council members for, this was not my best meeting, I should say. I did not, this is not the performance I'd want to highlight, but I appreciate all of the support and all of the grace and patience that everyone has afforded me. And so I will now look for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.